Chapter 839 The Crown Prince. 839 The Crown Prince 3. Little Phoenix wanted to say something sarcastic, but seeing how concerned Feng Wu was over Yuminji, it kept its silence. This Yuminji was at least better than Jun Linyuan. The guy had given Little Phoenix sweets twice. Just then, up on the mountain peak, both Feng Sun and Xian Yi looked in Jun Linyuan's direction. That giant glacier was the one Jun Linyuan was standing on. Boss Jun, you! Xian Yi realized what was happening right away. Of Jun Linyuan, the glacier, and the campsite, Jun Linyuan was on the highest ground, while the campsite was on the lowest. From where Jun Linyuan was, he had cracked the glacier with a push, and ice rained down on the campsite. However, the guy had to be unbelievably capable to break a mountain with one hand, not to mention that the glacier melted before it hit the ground. Xian Yi stared at Jun Linyuan in disbelief. Had the Crown Prince just melted an entire glacier with his rage? How furious was he? And how formidable his power was! It was unfathomable. Xian Yi said a silent prayer for Feng Wu. The girl had offended His Royal Highness that much without knowing it. Just then, "Wait a minute!" Feng Sun cried out and pointed at the snowfield down below. "What's Yuminji's problem? Can't he run himself? Why is my sister carrying him? She's never carried me on her back. This is unbelievable." Xian Yi's heart sank. His worst fear had just come true. Looking down, he saw that Feng Wu was indeed running across the snowfield with Yuminji on her back. Next to her was a flying tent that had been packed up. Xian Yi's mouth fell open. He threw a dirty look at Feng Sun. The guy just wouldn't keep his mouth shut. "No, I have to get down there. Who the hell does Yuminji think he is? When will he leave my sister alone?" Feng Sun dashed off. Xian Yi couldn't bring himself to look at Boss Jun's face. The guy melted a glacier because Feng Wu gave Yuminji acupuncture therapy. Now that Feng Wu was running around with Yuminji on her back, Xian Yi forced himself to look at Jun Linyuan. He stumbled back at what he saw. Jun Linyuan looked as if he was wearing an ice mask. His gaze was as sharp as a blade and he was biting hard on his lower lip. He looked so terrifying. Xian Yi had no doubt that Boss Jun would kill Yuminji the next moment. Luckily, Feng Sun got there in time. He dragged Yuminji off Feng Wu's back right away. Feng Wu snapped, "What the hell?" Feng Sun flicked Feng Wu in the forehead and yelled at her, "Exactly how silly can you be? He's a guy and you're a girl. You should keep your distance." After that, Feng Sun threw Yuminji over his shoulder and marched off. Whoosh! Xian Yi let out a breath of relief, then stole a glance at Jun Linyuan. He tried to cover for Feng Wu. Why, Yuminji looked so limp and he didn't even resist. Is he sick or something? Xian Yi smacked his thigh. Yes, that's it. He's too sick to walk. That's why little Feng Wu was carrying him. Sigh, she's such a kind person. Still biting his lip, the Crown Prince stared at the three people down below and suddenly clenched his fists. Boom. Chapter 840 The Crown Prince. 840 The Crown Prince 4. Jun Linyuan smashed the glacier under him. There was a blast. Crack! The impact created another giant pit in the glacier, and ice rolled down in great chunks. Xian Yi's mouth fell open. If he still had some doubts over the cause of that falling glacier, he had just been fully convinced. Boss Jun was unbelievable. Below on the snowfield. Thump, thump, thump. Large chunks of ice showered down like meteorites. Quickly! With Yuminji on his back, Feng Sun took Feng Wu's hand and ran as fast as he could. He mumbled as he ran, "Little Feng Wu, saving Yuminji was your worst decision today. See? You've enraged someone up there and you're being punished." Feng Wu retorted, "No, I didn't." "Yes, you so did." Feng Sun rolled his eyes. Everything was fine in the campsite before you brought Yu Minji back. But now, everything has been ruined. Look, we have to carry him around while running for our lives. We could get our heads cracked open by chunks of ice at any moment. Feng Sun had no idea that he had actually pointed out the truth. When they were finally out of the campsite, they ran for another 100 miles or so until they reached the next valley. Whoosh! All the candidates were sitting, dazed, in the cold wind. They had been so flustered when they fled the campsite that they hadn't brought anything with them. Now that they were safe again, they began to shiver in the heavy snow. Seeing Feng Wu arrive, Mu Yaoyao was disappointed. For a moment there, she had hoped that Feng Wu would die in the disaster. Looking around at the candidates, Feng Sun asked Xianyuan Yi, "Is everyone here?" Xianyuan Yi was considered the future of the Xianyuan family, which was one of the 9 major clans. The candidates had reached a tacit agreement that Xianyuan Yi was their leader. However, the teenager considered Feng Sun his superior. What was more, Xianyuan Yi was trying his best to squeeze into the Crown Prince's circle. It was just that Feng Sun didn't seem to like him all that much. "Brother Feng, we have 63 candidates in total, and everyone is accounted for. We're only missing His Royal Highness and Brother Xian." Xianyuan Yi couldn't be any more polite with Feng Sun. He then turned to look at Feng Wu. By then, Feng Wu had removed the tent from Little Phoenix and was ready to set up camp in a spot she had chosen. Xianyuan Yi stared at Feng Wu. Mu Yaoyao had been poisoning his ears with rumors about Feng Wu, and as a result, he already had a poor impression of Feng Wu before they even met. Seeing that Feng Wu had taken the best spot under a leeward slope, he frowned. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" Feng Wu didn't remember Xianyuan Yi much from her childhood, and he was practically a stranger to her now. Since the guy was stopping her from setting up camp, Feng Wu rose to her feet and stared at him. Xianyuan Yi stared back. "Excuse me, this is the best spot in the area that's away from the wind and the rain. How can you take it for granted that it's yours?" Feng Wu didn't mind where she slept for the night, but Yu Minji needed a quiet and warm place to recover. She had checked the area. This was the only ideal spot. Chapter 841 The Crown Prince. 841 The Crown Prince 5. Mu Yaoyao snorted. "Feng Wu, you arrived last. You don't get to nab the good spot first." Gong Sun Qing chimed in, "You're the only one with a tent here. Give it up already." Feng Wu smiled a little. These people just took it for granted that she would let them push her around. Xianyuan Yi stared at Feng Wu. He had his eye on Feng Wu's tent, but had scruples because of Yu Minji's status. Xianyuan Yi still hadn't decided whether to take the tent or not. Feng Sun was baffled by what was happening. Exactly how stupid were these people? Picking on his sister, really? "Hey, what's this? What are you doing to my sister?" Throwing an arm over Xianyuan Yi's shoulder, Feng Sun scanned the crowd with a smile. "Interesting. Very interesting." "Sister?" Everyone looked at Feng Sun in bewilderment. Since when was Feng Wu his sister? Xianyuan Yi broke into a cold sweat. Seriously? Was Feng Sun backing Feng Wu up now? Wasn't Feng Sun with His Royal Highness, and didn't His Royal Highness find Feng Wu repulsive? How? "Brother Feng, why is Feng Wu your sister all of a sudden?" Xianyuan Yi smiled wryly. "Why can't she be my sister? She's my sister because I say so." Feng Sun smirked. "My sister is taking this spot. Are you going to tell her otherwise now?" The others all looked baffled. Exactly what was the relationship between Feng Wu and Feng Sun? Why was young Lord Feng taking Feng Wu's side? Mu Yaoyao gritted her teeth in frustration. She didn't understand it. What did these guys see in Feng Wu? That girl could hang out with Yu Minji, and now, young Lord Feng was backing her up. She was just a good-for-nothing. Why? Jealousy gnawed at Mu Yaoyao's heart. Xianyuan Yi cringed at Feng Sun's stare and backed off. Just then Gongsun Qin cried out, "Your Royal Highness!" The others turned around to see the tall, handsome crown prince. The teenager walked toward them through the wind and snow, his fur cape giving him a regal, majestic look. Seeing Jun Linyuan, the candidates forgot about the cold immediately and all rose to their feet in excitement. Although the crown prince had joined them earlier, they hadn't had many chances to meet him so far. "Your Royal Highness," Mu Yaoyao rushed over to him and said loudly in an aggrieved voice, "Feng Wu was going to take the nicest spot, but we've saved it for you. What should we do?" Mu Yaoyao used the most delicate and touching voice she could manage, and she batted her eyelashes repeatedly in a flirtatious way. "Really?" Mu Yaoyao didn't expect to get an answer, but Jun Linyuan actually replied with a question. That surprised everyone. Mu Yaoyao was overwhelmed by the unexpected attention. Yes, of course. Everyone here saw it. "Your Royal Highness, please do something." Mu Yaoyao moved closer as she spoke in a cloying voice. Jun Linyuan frowned and the look in his eyes was devoid of warmth. He gave the order without looking at Feng Wu, "Banish her." Banish her? What was that supposed to mean? Everyone was still bewildered, when Feng Sun gave Mu Yaoyao a push. "That's you, you gossipmonger. Go away." "You?" Mu Yaoyao stumbled and was furious. Jun Linyuan smiled wickedly as he shifted his gaze to Feng Sun. He then pointed at Feng Wu. "I meant her." Chapter 842 Romantic? Maybe. 842 Romantic? Maybe 1. Jun Linyuan pointed a finger at Feng Wu. That immediately silenced everyone. All eyes were on Feng Wu, and Feng Wu was equally baffled herself. Gongsun Qin was the first one to laugh out loud. She glanced at Feng Wu and said in a taunting voice, "Did you hear that? His Royal Highness told you to get lost." Mu Yaoyao chimed in and scoffed at Feng Wu. "Go away now. Are you going to defy His Royal Highness?" Many others joined in and sneered at Feng Wu. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu turned to Jun Linyuan. She tried to reason with the guy. "Yuminji has a high fever and he's very weak. He needs that place to rest. Jun Linyuan, you know perfectly well why he's this sick." Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu in an intimidating manner. "Therefore, please let me have this spot." Gritting her teeth, Feng Wu spoke in a solemn tone. Jun Linyuan only snorted. Seeing that the guy wouldn't give in, Feng Wu stressed, "He can die. I'm not joking." Jun Linyuan said coldly, "All the better." Feng Wu was speechless. She didn't want to say another word to Jun Linyuan. Snatching Yuminji off Feng Sun's back, Feng Wu turned to leave. "Leave this place and I'll kill him." Jun Linyuan spoke in an intimidating voice. "Feng Wu!" Fighting back her rage with all her might, Feng Wu trembled from head to toe. Turning around, she met Jun Linyuan's gaze and glared at the guy. "Jun Linyuan, you've crossed the line." She couldn't keep the spot and she wasn't allowed to leave. Pleading wasn't an option, neither was fighting. Jun Linyuan didn't like her. That was that. However, Feng Wu had to admit that Jun Linyuan was capable of killing Yuminji if he was really pissed. She couldn't risk Yuminji's life. At that thought, Feng Wu took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. She found another spot that was shielded from the wind. Feng Sun quickly set up the tent without her having to say anything. Feng Wu then gave Feng Sun instructions right away. "I need firewood, hot water, ice." After listing everything she wanted, she went into the tent. She was alone with that guy again. Jun Linyuan was so angry that he wanted to kick that tent away again. Xian Yi stopped him in time. He could tell that Feng Wu was on the verge of losing her temper. The girl would explode if the crown prince pissed her off again. When that happened, Boss Jun's feelings would be hurt even more. "Let me go have a look. Maybe I can help them." Xian Yi then turned to leave. Seeing that the crown prince didn't stop him, Xian Yi let out a sigh of relief. The guy had given his tacit permission. Mu Yaoyao saw Jun Linyuan standing there all by himself and thought that it was a perfect opportunity for her. She inched toward the crown prince, but before she could say anything, Jun Linyuan spun around and left. He left so fast that a chilly wind swept across the area. Instantly, Mu Yaoyao felt frozen to the bone. In the tent, Xian Yi watched as Feng Wu busied herself with treating Yuminji. He wanted to say something, but hesitated. He had never been a talkative guy, nor was he in the habit of nosing around, but he just couldn't bring himself to see Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan fall out. Actually, Boss Jun. Chapter 843 Romantic? Maybe. 843 Romantic? Maybe 2. Xian Yi had barely started before Feng Wu cast a stern look at him. Her tone was emotionless. Mention him again and you're out of here. Xian Yi's mouth fell open. He had to change the subject to Yuminji. How's he doing? By that, he meant, when can you leave this tent? A certain guy would never lighten up if she stayed here in the tent. Feng Wu frowned and shook her head. His temperature won't go down and he's in critical condition. I have to stay here tonight to look after him. Tonight? As in, a whole night. Xian Yi's face darkened. Problem? Feng Wu frowned. How about I stay here tonight? Do you know how to treat him? No. Then what good can you do? Xian Yi's mouth fell open. The girl was so relentless. Seeing that Feng Wu was almost done with treating Yuminji, Xian Yi couldn't help but remind her again. Little Feng Wu, if you think about it, you'll realize that Boss Jun has been very kind to you. If only. Feng Wu sneered at Xian Yi before Xian Yi could finish his sentence. So, he was doing me a favor when he told me to get lost? What will he do when he's not kind? Kill me? I didn't mean that. Xian Yi, I didn't know you were this talkative and meddlesome. I just don't want you two to misunderstand each other. With the two of them falling out, the mood of the entire campsite was affected. Everyone was on edge. There's no misunderstanding between me and him. Feng Wu stared at Xian Yi with bright eyes devoid of warmth as she said, I'll only repeat myself once. There's no misunderstanding about what happened between me and him. Xian Yi finally saw how difficult Feng's job was. Fine, fine. Go figure it out yourselves. I've had enough. Both of them were more stubborn than a bull, and Xian Yi was at the end of his rope. He raised the curtain to find Feng Sun outside. Xian Yi patted Feng Sun on the shoulder. Stay in this tent today. Got it? No, I won't. It's an order from Boss Jun. Really? That's what Boss Jun said. Are you going to defy him? Feng Sun rubbed his chin. Well, if Boss Jun wants me to stay here, fine, I'll keep an eye on that Yuminji. Jun Linyuan wasn't in the campsite, but had climbed a mountain peak. The lower hem of his robe flapped in the cold wind. Xian Yi went up to him and said indifferently, That guy's pretty sick. His fever won't go down. Jun Linyuan replied with a snort. Little Feng Wu is going to stay in the tent and look after that guy tonight. Jun Linyuan's face turned livid at those words. But Feng Sun has offered to stay with her tonight as well, just in case his sister needs a hand. Xian Yi saw Boss Jun's face lighten up a little right away. The guy was still trying to hide his feelings even now. What was wrong with telling her how he really felt? All of a sudden, rumble. There was a loud noise. What was that? Xian Yi looked into the distance and saw smoke rising from the snowfield down below. Look! Xian Yi pointed at the smoke and looked baffled. Even Jun Linyuan was alarmed. Before long, a magical beast resembling a white dragon ran out of the smoke and charged in their direction. Chapter 844 Romantic? Maybe. 844 Romantic? Maybe 3. The beast had the head of a dragon and the body of a lion, and a pair of wings stuck out from its back. It was covered in white fur which was so translucent that it reminded one of ice and snow. When it rolled around in the snow, it blended into the background and almost became invisible. That's a powerful beast. Xian Yi stumbled back when the beast's formidable aura reached them like a blast of wind. It's that frosty night beast. Jun Linyuan's eyes glittered. The beast landed from above and roared in the direction of the campsite. The sound wave hit the campsite like a tidal wave. Boom! A gust of wind swept across the campsite. All hell broke loose. What's going on? What was that? That sound was so frightening. Everyone looked up at the sky. That strange snowy white beast was circling over their heads. A frosty night beast. Oh God! That's a frosty night beast. Some of the candidates were more experienced than the others, such as Xianyuan Yi. He recognized at once that this was the formidable beast which resided in the center of proud Snowfield. The beast then flapped its wings. Whoosh! The candidates, who had gathered together, were swept away in all directions and scattered all over the ground. Everyone moaned in pain. The frosty night beast was as formidable as it was said to be. With one dive, it broke their ranks. It plunged down again and snatched someone off the ground. Ah! Gongsun Qing. Shit! It got Gongsun Qing. Everyone was astonished. What a beast! It had taken Gongsun Qing before they could even blink. Gongsun Qing finally realized what had happened and shrieked. Ah! Help! Help me! Feng Wu had just finished treating Yu Minji, and she walked out of the tent at the noise. The first thing she saw was the frosty night beast taking away Gongsun Qing. It reminded her of Jun Linyuan. Back in northern border city, Feng Wu had been snatched by an eagle. Jun Linyuan was so merciless at that time. Instead of trying to save her, he almost killed her. However, the guy was no better now. He was as unrelenting and cold-hearted as ever. Only a couple of months had passed since then, but Feng Wu felt like it was a lifetime away. Right at that moment, a figure leapt up with a sword in his hand. His Royal Highness! It's His Royal Highness! He's saving Gongsun Qing! The next moment, Jun Linyuan struck at the frosty night beast's paw. The frosty night beast tossed Gongsun Qing into its mouth. Jun Linyuan then struck the beast's mouth. Feng Wu saw everything. Because of that, she narrowed her eyes. She couldn't help but recall how merciless Jun Linyuan had been when she was snatched. He had never thought about rescuing her. He even tried to kill her. But now, that same person had struck out twice to save Gongsun Qing. For some unknown reason, Feng Wu felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to cry. In front of the screen, Imperial College. An emergency meeting was being held because of the awakened frosty night beast. Chapter 845 Romantic? Maybe. 845 Romantic? Maybe 4. Of all the 7 members of the Education Board, 3 had gone into seclusion. The other 4 members were all here in the room. They were Grand Secretary Fang, Priest Wu, Xianyuan Kun, and Gongsun Lan. Gongsun Lan was an unmarried female elder of the Gongsun clan, and none other than Gongsun Qing's paternal grandaunt. Gongsun Qing had been brought up by this grandaunt. The physical tryout is too dangerous now. At this point, it's way beyond what the candidates can handle. We have to get them out of there now. Elder Xianyuan was very adamant. But Grand Secretary Fang shook his head. Feng Wu needed that frosty night beast, and Grand Secretary Fang had communicated with her already. She didn't want to give up. Hence, Grand Secretary Fang insisted, His Royal Highness has led a team into the snowfield. They'll handle that frosty night beast. If the beast is what concerns you, there's really no need. Elder Xianyuan wanted to object, but Grand Secretary Fang only smiled at him. Do you have doubts about His Royal Highness? Of course not. His Royal Highness is such a powerful cultivator. You have questions about His Royal Highness's capability, then? I'm sure nothing can defeat His Royal Highness. Then what's bothering you? Things turned south in the snowfield while they were still discussing the matter in front of the screen. Gongsun Qing was snatched. Gongsun Lan's stomach lurched. No. But just as she was about to rise to her feet, she saw the Crown Prince strike out. Elder Xianyuan insisted, "It's too dangerous out there. Grand Secretary Fong, are you going to do nothing? Who's going to take responsibility if things go wrong?" Gongsun Lan stared at Elder Xianyuan. They went in there with the knowledge that it was going to be dangerous. How are they supposed to defend their empire if they panic as soon as something comes up? What other achievements can we expect from them then? Elder Xianyuan was baffled. What the heck? Wasn't this old hag supposed to be on his side? Didn't she insist earlier that they should get everyone out of there? Why did she change her mind? When Elder Xianyuan glanced at the screen, he saw the Crown Prince fighting that frosty night beast. Elder Xianyuan smirked. I see. Gongsun Lan, that's your plan, isn't it? What plan? Look, His Royal Highness is saving a damsel in distress. The next thing we know, the damsel is going to throw herself into her savior's arms. Elder Xianyuan snorted. What damsel? What savior? You old fool, and your head filled with filthy ideas. Although, Gongsun Lan smiled a little. Elder Xianyuan turned to Grand Secretary Fong with a smile. If I remember correctly, your granddaughter has a crush on His Royal Highness as well. So, Elder Xianyuan was trying to cast a bone between Gongsun Lan and Grand Secretary Fong. Gongsun Lan smiled. Let the youngsters decide for themselves. Plus, didn't His Royal Highness annulled his marriage contract before? His former fiancée was that little Feng Wu, wasn't it? Gongsun Lan didn't pay much attention to Mu Yaoyao. She was experienced enough to tell right away that Mu Yaoyao stood no chance in this competition. As for little Feng Wu, she was such a beautiful girl. Back in the snowfield, after another strike from Jun Linyuan, Gongsun Qing fell through the air. She had just let out a shriek when Jun Linyuan lent her a hand. Chapter 846, Romantic? Maybe. 846 Romantic? Maybe 5. Then, Jun Linyuan tossed her in Xian Yi's direction. Xian Yi leapt up, caught Gongsun Qing, and helped her to land steadily on her feet. Gongsun Qing was over the moon. With her left hand, she kept stroking her right arm where His Royal Highness had held her. His Royal Highness had touched her arm. Gongsun Qing stood there in a daze and couldn't stop smiling. Thump, thump, thump. Jun Linyuan and the frosty night beast fought fiercely in the air, and were soon out of sight. A hush fell over the crowd. Everyone shuddered when a gust of wind swept across the campsite. Having lost their tents and food, and coupled with the fact that they hadn't slept much last night, they were now stuck between hunger and cold. To make it worse, they had been attacked by that frosty night beast. They were miserable. Feng Wu was the only one with a tent, and many eyed her with jealousy. But because of what Feng Sun had said, no one dared to mess with Feng Wu anymore. Although Feng Sun and Xian Yi had gone off after that frosty night beast, the others still didn't dare touch Feng Wu's belongings. As the head of the team, Xianyuan Yi did what a leader should do in a time like this. After Jun Linyuan went off, he stepped up as commander. The candidates here consisted of 3 teams, and everyone was given tasks. Some went to find firewood, some went hunting or fishing, and some worked as support. Everything was in order. Feng Wu wasn't part of that system, for her top priority now was to cure Yuminji, and to treat her own wounds. The campsite was soon back to its boisterous state. Princess, look. That Gongsun Qing is still in a trance, said Yaoing, half of whose face was covered with bandages. She now despised all pretty girls and secretly wished to destroy all their faces. Mu Yaoyao couldn't help but look at Gongsun Qing. Gong Sun Qing remained where she was and kept touching her right arm with her left hand. Her expression changed constantly, as she smiled one moment and was sad the next. She then bit her lip, smiling shyly. Mu Yaoyao recognized that look right away. So, Gong Sun Qing was in love with His Royal Highness. Mu Yaoyao flared up. Gong Sun Qing wasn't by herself. Shi Xian, her friend, was next to her. Shi Xian chuckled. Sister Qing, it's so chilly here at the valley entrance. Let's find a warmer spot inside. Gong Sun Qing shook her head and kept looking into the distance. Shi Xian grinned. Sister Qing, His Royal Highness isn't coming back anytime soon. Standing here won't change anything. With her secret laid bare, Gong Sun Qing was a little exasperated. She cast a stern look at Shi Xian. How does His Royal Highness have anything to do with this? I'm not standing here because of him. Shi Xian said, Yes, of course. You're not standing here for anything. So, can we please go back inside? His Royal Highness will be distraught if you catch a cold. Gong Sun Qing said, Do you think he really will? Of course. Why not? Shi Xian grinned. We all know how nonchalant and aloof His Royal Highness is. He never talks to anyone unless it's necessary or helps anyone out. But he just saved you. Really? Gong Sun Qing lowered her head, playing with a lock of her hair. Yes, Shi Xian said affirmatively. Can you remember His Royal Highness rescuing any other girl? I don't think so. That's right. I heard that there was this girl who got snatched by an eagle in northern border city once. Shi Xian was clearly very well informed. Do you know what happened next? Chapter 847 Romantic? Maybe. 847 Romantic? Maybe 6. What happened? His Royal Highness struck out with his blade without hesitation. He wanted to kill that girl to save himself the trouble. Feng Wu's tent was close by and she was cultivating as she kept an eye on Yuminji. However, it was so noisy outside that she kept picking up bits of conversation. None of it would have bothered Feng Wu on a normal day, for she had always been able to enter the state of meditation. But now she realized that she was unable to do so. What was more, she felt agitated. She kept going back to the moment when Jun Linyuan saved Gong Sun Qing. Thump! Feng Wu smacked herself on the head. Focus! When her mind finally settled, and she was able to work on her cultivation, she heard the conversation between Gong Sun Qing and Shi Xian. How frustrating! Gong Sun Qing asked, What? Really? Yes. Shi Xian patted her chest, looking frightened. I was told that His Royal Highness was relentless. He didn't even blink before he struck out. But he just saved you. Gong Sun Qing smiled shyly. Shi Xian went on. So, His Royal Highness must like you a lot. Wow, you're going to marry him. Gong Sun Qing nudged her gently. Stop it. Why, somebody's shy. Hey, don't you run away. Your Royal Highness, I'm so scared. Shi Xian. Those words unsettled Feng Wu and she felt so agitated. Just then, the door to the tent opened and a tall figure entered. Before she could say anything, the person said in a commanding voice, Open your mouth. Jun Linyuan. Why was he back? Why? I'm not opening my mouth just because you tell me to. Who do you think you are? Feng Wu glared at Jun Linyuan, reminding him of a little tiger. Jun Linyuan snorted. Are you going to open your mouth or not? No. Resting her hands on her waist, Feng Wu raised her chin proudly. However, the next second, pinching her chin between his fingers, Jun Linyuan stuffed something into her mouth with the other hand. Wretch! Something cold and slimy slid down her throat before she could react. Feng Wu wanted to spit it out, but Jun Linyuan had put his hand on her throat. His palm radiated spiritual essence and warmed up that thing. The thing melted almost immediately and reached Feng Wu's dantian within minutes, where it entered her bloodstream and she could no longer spit it out. Feng Wu looked shocked. She stared at Jun Linyuan. What on earth did you put into my mouth? What do you think? It was wet and slimy, like an internal elixir. Yup. Jun Linyuan looked pleased. Xian Yi was right. Girls were petty creatures, Jun Linyuan thought. He had just done a magnanimous thing. This way she would be pleased, wouldn't she? This was the first time that the Crown Prince had ever tried to please a girl. You fed the internal elixir of a magical beast to me? Feng Wu's heart raced. Don't tell me it belonged to that frosty night beast. It did. Jun Linyuan nodded. Feng Wu. She was furious. You fed its internal elixir to me? I had other plans for that internal elixir. You idiot. Chapter 848 Romantic? Maybe. 848 Romantic? Maybe 7. Her top priority here in proud Snowfield was to get the internal elixir of that frosty night beast, which she would use as the core of her Tai formation. But Jun Linyuan had just fed the internal elixir to her. It was gone. Jun Linyuan was displeased by Feng Wu's reaction. He hadn't even thought about keeping the internal elixir for himself, and had fed it to her himself so that she wouldn't give it to Yuminji. And now she was yelling at him? Hence, the two of them glared at each other, and the temperature in the tent began to rise. Feng Wu yelled, Jun Linyuan, what were you thinking? You fed the internal elixir to me? Jun Linyuan's face turned livid. He had saved the internal elixir just for her, and she was yelling at him now? He felt so wronged. Feng Wu went on. What good will it do me? You could have given it to Yuminji. He needs extra help. The Crown Prince was furious. Feng Wu glared at him. Quit staring at me. Am I wrong? Jun Linyuan had enough. Staring at Feng Wu, he pointed at Yuminji. Do you care about him that much? He was so mad. He wanted to cut Yuminji into little pieces. Feng Wu snorted. Of course. He saved my life. Jun Linyuan almost had a heart attack. He saved your life? When did that happen? Feng Wu snorted. I'll skip what happened before and tell you the most recent incident. If he hadn't saved me from those Qilin beasts, I would have been killed. Jun Linyuan drew in his breath. Blue veins popped in the corner of his forehead. He wanted to throttle Feng Wu. How do you know it was him? What question is that? It's so obvious. Feng Wu smirked. Who else could it have been? You? Why couldn't it be me? Heh. Feng Wu sneered at him. Your Royal Highness, saving people really isn't your forte. You're much better at killing. Back in North. Feng Wu stopped abruptly. She almost let it slip. If she mentioned what happened with the eagle, she would be telling him that she was that ugly girl. Hence, Feng Wu cleared her throat. Anyway, it won't be the first time you turn away from someone that needs help. I turn away from those that need my help? I just saved that woman. Jun Linyuan exploded. He had done it for Feng Wu. Because at that moment, he had turned around to find Feng Wu staring at Gongsun Qing. Jun Linyuan didn't want Gongsun Qing to fall to the ground, for the gory scene might give Feng Wu nightmares. That was why he had given Gongsun Qing a hand. But Jun Linyuan shouldn't have mentioned that, for Feng Wu flared up right away. Not only did the Crown Prince turn away from her in northern border city, he even tried to kill her. And what did he just do? He saved a girl in front of Feng Wu. Very nice. Feng Wu snorted. That's right. You saved Gongsun Qing. How amazing! I'm sure you'll win her heart after saving her from distress. Everyone will be talking about it from now on. Jun Linyuan was infuriated. He should never have saved that woman. He glared at Feng Wu. You're impossible. I'm impossible? Me? Feng Wu snapped. You're impossible. Your whole family is impossible. Chapter 849 Interesting. 849 Interesting. Xian Yi and Feng Sun were eavesdropping outside, and both of them blanched at Feng Wu's words. That girl had just alluded to His Majesty. How bold! Jun Linyuan's face turned livid. Kicking the door open, he stormed out. Boss Jun, Xian Yi and Feng Sun followed him in a hurry. Turning around, Jun Linyuan stared at Xian Yi furiously. His gaze was so intense that it gave Xian Yi the creep. Only then did Jun Linyuan turn back and march off. Everywhere he went, the ice cracked under his feet. It was only after the Crown Prince was out of sight that Feng Sun said indignantly, "Xian II, what did you do to piss Boss Jun off this time?" "I didn't do anything. I told him something. That's all." "Since when are you capable of doing that? You pissed Boss Jun off with just a few words? Wasn't Boss Jun supposed to go around with his poker face?" Xian Yi rubbed his nose. "What did he say?" "Well, he told the Crown Prince that girls were all petty, and as a guy, the Crown Prince should be magnanimous and offer her a way out. The girl would jump at the opportunity. However," Xian Yi rubbed his forehead in frustration. How was he supposed to know how badly the Crown Prince would handle this? What a waste of such a precious internal elixir. Feng Sun threw a dirty look at Xian Yi. "Didn't you say that Boss Jun likes my sister? What are you going to say now?" Xian Yi's mouth fell open. "Go talk to Boss Jun. Please have him leave my sister alone." Xian Yi's mouth hung open. "I'll go comfort that girl. Sigh. She's got such a big heart. Anyone else would have felt so defeated." Xian Yi's mouth remained open. The tent was some distance away from the crowd, and most of the other people didn't hear what happened. Hence, the others didn't know about the quarrel between Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan. Feng Sun entered the tent to find his beloved sister sitting there, sulking. "Hey, hey!" Feng Sun patted Feng Wu's shoulder to make her look at him. "What now?" Feng Wu had yet to calm down from the quarrel, and was still breathing hard. "Sister, do calm down. That's just how Boss Jun is. You'll get used to it, ha ha ha." "Get used to it? Why should I get used to him? He better stay out of my way." Feng Sun said, "Actually, he didn't mean it." Feng Wu said, "No, he so did." "Is it that serious?" "Yes, it is." Feng Wu snorted. "Otherwise, why did he feed me the internal elixir of that frosty night beast? He was making fun of me." Feng Wu shuddered as she spoke. It was freezing. The cold was rising up from her dantian. Feng Wu felt as if her dantian had frozen up. "So, you think Boss Jun was making fun of you by feeding you the internal elixir? Was he not?" Feng Wu showed him her palm, which was covered in a thin layer of frost. It pained Feng Sun to see it. "Why is this happening?" Feng Wu smirked. "I've swallowed the internal elixir of that frosty night beast, all right? It has the coldest energy you can possibly think of. Even if one wants to eat it, the thing has to be processed carefully by medicine refiners first. It can only be consumed once it's made into a potion. And what did he do? He just shoved it down my throat." Chapter 850. 850 The Unfortunate. Feng Sun asked, "How do you feel now?" "I have a headache as well as a stomachache." Wrinkling up her nose, Feng Wu looked out of sorts. She went on, "How could he? The Heart of Frost essence was too precious to waste like this." Feng Sun said, "But that wasn't the Heart of Frost essence." "What?" Feng Wu was baffled. "Wasn't it the internal elixir of the frosty night beast? Why wasn't it the Heart of Frost essence?" "Because that wasn't the frosty night beast, not the real one. It was only a shadow of the real thing and didn't have all its abilities. That's why it only had the common internal elixir, and not the Heart of Frost essence." Feng Wu. "So, the Heart of Frost essence is still out there?" "Of course." Feng Sun gloated. "Boss Jun has had his eye on it all along. And if Boss Jun wants something, no one can take it from him." Feng Wu smiled a little. Really? He thought so. Back in Frozen Forest in northern Border City, she hadn't had any cultivation ability, but she had still been able to steal that immortal spiritual fruit from Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu darted a glance at Feng Sun. Has your boss Jun never failed? Of course. Are you sure? I think so. Really, really sure. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something, but you can't tell anyone else. Feng Wu grinned. What is it? Actually, Boss Jun was tricked once, and it was a pretty elaborate scam. We went into Frozen Forest when we were in northern Border City. Feng Sun then told Feng Wu everything. He almost burst into tears in the end. That ugly girl was so cunning. She just took off with that immortal spiritual fruit. I've never met such a cold-blooded girl. And I was so kind to her. Feng Wu rubbed her nose, feeling a little guilty. If Feng Sun knew that the girl he wanted to hunt down was standing right in front of him, would he beat the crap out of her right now? Feng Wu changed the subject. I'm starving. Do you have anything to eat? But Feng Sun was too absorbed in the subject to be distracted. He snorted. If I ever catch that girl, I'll starve her and won't let her sleep for 7 days. Feng Sun went on listing all the punishments he had in mind without knowing that Feng Wu was the ugly girl herself. However, Yu Minji noticed. He had woken up already, but was pretending to be asleep so that he could listen to Feng Wu and Feng Sun's conversation. When Feng Sun talked about what he would do to that ugly girl, Yu Minji observed the look on Feng Wu's face through narrowed eyes. He had had his suspicions when they were by the river. Now that he saw the look on Feng Wu's face, he was almost certain. Because Feng Wu looked too guilty and kept on trying to change the subject. So, little Feng Wu was that ugly girl in northern Border City. Yu Minji was overwhelmed by conflicted feelings. That ugly girl had made his life miserable. He had given that girl some pink pills and threatened that the poison would kill her. Afterward, he learned that those pink pills had been created by Feng Wu herself. Chapter 851. 851 The Crown Prince and His Temper. So, if Feng Wu was that ugly girl, Yu Minji couldn't bring himself to think further along that line. And he had been tricked over and over again after the first time. How he wanted to spank that girl now. However, on second thought, he was the only one who knew that secret about Feng Wu. Neither Feng Sun nor Xian Yi knew. Not even Jun Linyuan. And he also knew about Feng Wu's cultivation ability, which none of those 3 guys had discovered. Yu Minji felt a sense of superiority. Poor Feng Wu. Even the wisest made mistakes sometimes, and she had just slipped up without knowing it. Just then, someone called outside. It's dinner time. Feng Sun pulled Feng Wu to her feet and said cheerfully, Come, let's have something to eat. In the campsite. The mood was quite strange at the moment. So was the look on Xian Yi's face. To his surprise, instead of sitting all by himself, Jun Linyuan had joined the other candidate. The girls gathered around automatically as soon as he sat down. It was such a rare opportunity, and everyone wanted to grab the chance. Mu Yaoyao was the most aggressive one. She had successfully frightened away a few girls with the intimidating look in her eyes. However, Jun Linyuan spoke to Gongsun Qing first. How are you doing? How are you doing? It was a simple 4-word question, but His Royal Highness had taken the initiative, which was enough to excite all the girls. His Royal Highness had struck up a conversation with a girl? Holy shit! Gongsun Qing was dumbfounded. Her head went blank, the smile froze on her face, and she didn't even know where to put her hands. Next to her, Shi Xian was equally dumbfounded. But she came back to herself first and pinched Gongsun Qing. Say something. Anything. His Royal Highness is talking to you. Gongsun Qing blushed and bit her lower lip. The proud teenage girl was only able to reply in a whisper, All right. All right? Go on. Say something else. Right now, even those in front of the screen were shocked, let alone the candidates at the scene. What the heck? His Royal Highness spoke to a girl? That was unheard of. So much so that the news reached the Imperial Palace almost immediately. Jun Linyuan was talking to Gong Sun Qing, but his eyes were on that tent. Seeing Feng Wu come out, he smiled in a mesmerizing manner and turned his intense gaze on Gong Sun Qing. You've been holding your arm. Are you in pain? His deep voice had a majestic quality to it, and all the girls were infatuated. Holy shit! Gong Sun Qing thought her head was going to explode. His Royal Highness cared about her. Was Shi Xian telling the truth? Just then, Jun Linyuan rose to his feet and left without looking in Feng Wu's direction. However, what he said was enough to set the campsite on fire. Gong Sun Qing wasn't the only one shaken. All the other girls had formed their own opinions. They had always thought that His Royal Highness was this unattainable figure who sat high on his throne. But what happened just then proved otherwise. Chapter 852. 852 Because I am pretty. The look in his bright eyes was so gentle when he looked at Gong Sun Qing. Holy shit! In front of the screen, Elder Xianyuan cupped his hands at Gong Sun Lan and congratulated her. Elder Gong Sun, congratulations. The Gong Sun family is rising. Please don't forget your old friends. Gong Sun Lan was secretly elated. After all families wanted to marry their girls to Jun Linyuan. An entire clan would prosper for many years just by being associated with Jun Linyuan, to say nothing of a marriage contract. Despite her excitement, Gong Sun Lan only smiled and waved her hand. You flatter me. That was the most common greeting and nothing more. You're overthinking it. Oh my, Elder Gong Sun, you're too modest. This is His Royal Highness we're talking about here. When was the last time you saw His Royal Highness greet someone? Gong Sun Lan said, Well, I haven't. There you have it. Go and prepare. The royal family will be visiting you soon. Elder Xianyuan chuckled. In proud snowfield, Shi Xian was tugging at Gong Sun Qing and crying out in excitement, Sister Qing? Sister Qing! Congratulations! Congratulations! Shi Xian wasn't so sure before, but after what happened just then, all the girls knew what that meant. His Royal Highness is really... Gong Sun Qing was still in a trance-like state. The happiness arrived so suddenly that she was still trying to digest it. Yes, he is. He really is. Shi Xian was thrilled. She then turned around and spotted Feng Wu. The smile disappeared from her face right away. Sister Qing, look. Someone's unhappy. Shi Xian didn't try to lower her voice and many heard her. They all turned to look at Feng Wu. Feng Wu didn't look her best at the moment and she was even frowning a little. So, Feng Wu's really unhappy. Are you kidding me? How can she be happy? After following His Royal Highness around for so long, His Royal Highness can't even be bothered to look at her. As soon as she started to work on Yuminji, His Royal Highness, I'd be so pissed if I were her. Look at her face. It's hilarious. Somehow, those girls just wouldn't leave Feng Wu alone. Now that they believed that Jun Linyuan was in love with Gong Sun Qing, they still saw Feng Wu as their target. Feng Wu rolled her eyes at those words. Why won't they leave you alone? Feng Sun couldn't stand it anymore. Feng Wu said, Because I'm pretty? Feng Sun sighed in resignation. This girl was unbelievable. Feng Wu, Gong Sun Qing dragged Feng Wu away. Feng Wu didn't want to go with her, but Gong Sun Qing moved too swiftly and the others were all helping her. Feng Wu couldn't throw her off right away. Well, she could if she activated her spiritual essence, but she didn't want to be exposed just yet. Feng Wu, are you with Yuminji now? Gong Sun Qing was finally back to herself, and she was glowing with excitement. Chapter 853. 853 The goddess, my senior sister. Feng Wu said, no. Feng Wu was the person Gongsun Qing wanted to hurt the most, but Shi Xian spoke before Gongsun Qing did. Feng Wu, did you see what happened? Do you think His Royal Highness has feelings for Sister Qing? Feng Wu rolled her eyes. Why are you asking me? I'm not Jun Linyuan. Shi Xian persisted. But His Royal Highness saved Sister Qing, and he even asked after her himself. Don't you think that means something? Feng Wu sighed in resignation. I have no idea, seriously. Shi Xian snapped. Why are you giving me attitude? You should be flattered that we're even asking for your opinion. Are you jealous or something? Feng Wu was speechless. She had nothing to do with any of this. He who had a mind to beat his dog would always find a stick. The last thing Feng Wu wanted was to get involved in the bickering. So, she quickly dragged Mu Yaoyao, the queen of bickering, into the fight. She had noticed that Mu Yaoyao had been grinding her teeth for a while. I'm sure Princess Mu has a lot to say on the subject. You better ask her, Feng Wu said with a smile as she rose to her feet. At the end of the day, it was all Jun Linyuan's fault. He could flirt with whoever he wanted, but couldn't he do it discreetly? He just had to let everyone see it, didn't he? Did he have any idea how easy it was to provoke these women? Crossing her arms, Mu Yaoyao leaned against a wall and smiled. Of course she would give you attitude. How else is she supposed to react? Shi Xian said, Princess Mu, do you think His Royal Highness? Mu Yaoyao's face darkened. What's your problem? Are you ever going to stop? Gosh, you're shameless. I bet you're so proud of yourself. Gongsun Qing's face darkened as well. Mu Yaoyao was openly attacking her. She leapt to her feet and glared at Mu Yaoyao. Looking over her shoulder, Feng Wu saw that the two girls were indeed turning against each other. This was going to be fun. Gongsun Qing snapped. Mu Yaoyao, what was that supposed to mean? You heard me. Don't understand Chinese? Said Mu Yaoyao. Are you cursing me now? I'm just reminding you, everyone should know their rightful place. And I don't? How? You think you do? If that's the case, you won't be fantasizing about marrying His Royal Highness. Even with Feng Wu out of the picture, there's still Zhuo Qingluan. Gongsun Qing's face turned livid. Mu Yaoyao snorted. My senior sister is the one with true phoenix blood, which makes her the only one worthy of His Royal Highness's affections. Who the hell do you think you are? You! Cheeks flushed with embarrassment, Gongsun Qing raised a hand to slap Mu Yaoyao. Do you know how amazing my senior sister is? She's like a goddess. She became a spiritual elder when I left my sect the year before last. Even Elder Mystery was amazed by her achievements in cultivation and formations. She can fend off thousands of magical beasts with her spiritual zither. And she has obtained her phoenix wings already, with which she can fly. She's only 15 and she has obtained such achievements. In a few years. Gongsun Qing, you're nothing compared with her. Gongsun Qing's face was scarlet. She clenched her fists so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She wanted to hit Mu Yaoyao but couldn't bring herself to do it. Chapter 854 Unexpected 854 Unexpected 1. Mu Yaoyao said, I'm only telling the truth. What? You don't like it? Taking a deep breath, Gongsun Qing smirked. Yes, Zhuo Qingluan is extraordinary, but so what? I don't have the extravagant hope of becoming His Royal Highness's official wife. As long as I can be with His Royal Highness, I don't care if I'm his concubine or even his maid. I just want to be with him. What about you? Gongsun Qing stared at Mu Yaoyao. His Royal Highness doesn't like you at all, no matter how badly you wish for it. You bitch. No, you bitch. Thump, thump, thump. Before long, bickering escalated into a physical fight. One naturally had some expectations of a fight between cultivators, but they would be disappointed. The two girls fought with their nails and teeth. SSSS. Feng Wu drew in her breath. That looked painful. Feng Sun shook his head. I didn't know girls could do that. Feng Wu darted a glance at him. Feng Sun waved his hand. I mean them, not you. That was more like it. Feng Sun stole a glance at Feng Wu when she was busy changing Yu Minji's bandages. He then glanced at her again. Feng Wu threw a dirty look at him. What? Rubbing his hands, Feng Sun hesitantly said, Well. Feng Wu sighed. Spill it. Are you sure? Speak. Feng Sun said, Well, I thought you liked Boss Jun a lot, didn't you? Aren't you jealous now? After seeing how kind Boss Jun is toward Gong Sun Qing. Feng Wu tossed a towel at Feng Sun's face. When did I ever like your Boss Jun? But you did. Feng Sun recalled. You were in love with Boss Jun since you first saw him in northern border city. You even tried to climb into. Help! She's trying to kill me. The next moment, Feng Wu kicked Feng Sun out of the tent. However, Feng Wu still encountered an unavoidable situation when she walked out of the tent some time later. She spotted Gong Sun Qing, who was waiting for her a few steps away. There was a grim look on Gong Sun Qing's face, and it seemed like she wanted to bore 2 holes into Feng Wu with her eyes. After fetching some hot water, Feng Wu wanted to go back in, but Gong Sun Qing blocked her way. Wait! Feng Wu looked at her in bewilderment. Yes. Gong Sun Qing looked Feng Wu up and down in a contemptuous manner. Feng Wu wanted to walk around her. You have to be the most unlucky person here. Why does His Royal Highness dislike you so much? Gong Sun Qing said with a half-smile as she crossed her arms. Feng Wu didn't say anything. I'm sure you didn't mean to offend His Royal Highness, and you want him to like you, right? Feng Wu didn't say anything. If I can give you a hand in this matter, how will you repay the favor? Feng Wu frowned a little. What favor is that? Yes. Gong Sun Qing smiled. It's really simple. Gong Sun Qing smiled at Feng Wu. Everyone knows that His Royal Highness treats me differently. What do you think he will do if I put in a good word for you now? Nothing. Gong Sun Qing stiffened and stared at Feng Wu in displeasure. She snorted. You're saying that because you don't know what it feels like to be favored by His Royal Highness. You have no idea of the privilege it'll bring you. As a matter of fact, I can change your luck. Chapter 855 Unexpected. 855 Unexpected. 2. Is that so? If you want it. Feng Wu was intrigued. What was Gong Sun Qing getting at? She smiled. What do you want from me? Gong Sun Qing replied. It's very simple. Kill Mu Yaoyao for me. Feng Wu said. You think I'm able to do that? You're not, but after Prince Yu wakes up, you can ask him to do it for you. He won't even break a sweat. Well, I just don't like that Mu Yaoyao. Kill her for me and I'll put in a good word for you in front of His Royal Highness. Deal? Feng Wu rolled her eyes. Do you take me for an idiot? Put in whatever word you want. Just leave me alone. Nudging Gong Sun Qing out of her way, Feng Wu went back into the tent with her basin of water. Surprised by Feng Wu's reaction, Gong Sun Qing almost tripped. Hey! You ungrateful woman! Gong Sun Qing flared up. You'll see after I become His Royal Highness's woman. Meanwhile, a few girls, who had been hiding behind an ice wall, ran to her side. Sister Qing, you lost. Ah! Pay up. Sister Qing, that was unexpected. I thought we had her there, and would make her fight to the death with Mu Yaoyao. But she wouldn't take the bait. This Feng Wu is cleverer than I thought. It was supposed to be a trap, and they were ready to laugh at Feng Wu when she agreed. But she turned it down. Sister Qing, His Royal Highness really has feelings for you, right? Gong Sun Qing gloated. Of course. Sister Qing, I have some freshly picked tea here. His Royal Highness probably doesn't have any hot tea in this abominable place. How about you make some for him? Gong Sun Qing hesitated. Are you sure about that? Of course. It's His Royal Highness we're talking about here. The feelings are mutual, and what's wrong with a cup of tea? Princess Mu has no reason to stop you. By now, all the girls were divided into two teams, Gong Sun Qing versus Mu Yaoyao. Feng Wu was the only one who remained neutral. Those who supported Gong Sun Qing were all prompting her to visit the Crown Prince. What was His Royal Highness doing at that moment? Xian Yi and Feng Sun had already built a neat log cabin for him. Even if he was only staying for the night, the Crown Prince's dwelling had to be in pristine condition, with all the necessary equipment on hand. And that was when Feng wasn't around. If the steward had been here, even the color of the logs had to be adjusted to the perfect shade. The window of the cabin opened up in the direction of the snow mountains in the distance, which made for a magnificent view. The cabin was plainly decorated with a wooden bed and a table. Jun Linyuan and Xian Yi sat opposite each other on rush cushions. And Jun Linyuan didn't look too good. His face was livid and he was giving off a cold air. Xian Yi couldn't stand the atmosphere anymore. He rose to his feet and wanted to leave the room. But, sit your ass down. Jun Linyuan stared at him. All right, rubbing his nose, Xian Yi reluctantly sat back down. Aren't girls supposed to be jealous when the guys they like treat other girls nicely? Jun Linyuan glared at Xian Yi. Xian Yi nodded. That's right. And it's the same with guys. They don't like the girls they're fond of to be too close with other guys, too. Xian Yi thought he had made the hint obvious enough. Your Royal Highness, please listen to your heart. Something did click in Jun Linyuan's head at Xian Yi's words, but the Crown Prince was so absorbed in figuring Feng Wu out that he ignored it. Chapter 856 Unexpected 856 Unexpected 3. Then why wasn't she angry? Jun Linyuan glowered at Xian Yi. Who wasn't angry? Oh, you mean little Feng Wu? Well, maybe she's still too young for that? Was that possible? Jun Linyuan rubbed his chin. So, she wasn't angry. Jun Linyuan frowned. Xian Yi said, well, she could be angry, but she might be too good at hiding her emotions. Jun Linyuan clenched his fist. So, was she angry or not? Did she care about him at all? Just then, there was a knock at the door. The interruption irritated Jun Linyuan. Whoever was at the door was senseless enough to enter the room without permission. Xian Yi's heart sank. Given the Crown Prince's temper, it was none other than Gong Sun Qing. However, Jun Linyuan's gaze lingered in her direction for a moment. The person he was staring at was Feng Wu, not Gong Sun Qing. Somehow, Feng Wu had come with all the other girls and was smirking at him from the door. Smirking? Why was she doing that? Gong Sun Qing thought the Crown Prince was looking at her and was thrilled. Your Royal Highness, here's some Shilua tea I just brewed. I didn't have much to work with here. I hope you don't mind. After that, Gong Sun Qing poured a cup of Shilua tea and handed it to Jun Linyuan with both hands. Outside, many girls were waiting. Gong Sun Qing had invited Feng Wu to come with her. Because she wanted to show Feng Wu how much the Crown Prince cared about her, and she wanted to prove that she had the power to persuade Jun Linyuan. Just then, Jun Linyuan saw that Feng Wu was blatantly sneering at him. He smacked the table. Gong Sun Qing had yet to put the cup down, and jumped at the sudden movement. Her hand jolted, and she spilled some tea on Jun Linyuan's sleeve. Jun Linyuan then took out a pouch from inside his sleeve, and saw that it had been stained by the tea. The next moment, Jun Linyuan's face turned livid. The look he gave Gong Sun Qing was so fierce that it reminded her of a thunderbolt. That pouch was hideous. Why did His Royal Highness have it on him? It was like a joke. Your Royal Highness, let me wash that pouch for you. However, before Gong Sun Qing could finish her sentence, something astonishing happened. Jun Linyuan raised a foot and kicked Gongsun Qing in the stomach. Oh God! Everyone was shocked. What just happened? The girls Gongsun Qing had brought with her were even more shocked. They had expected to see Gongsun Qing serve the tea and His Royal Highness look affectionately at her. However, none of that happened and Gongsun Qing was kicked out of the room. Yes, she flew out of the cabin. Gongsun Qing couldn't believe what happened. She was kicked out of the window, flew through the air, then landed on the ground with a thump, making a large pit in the snow. She even forgot to climb out. Sister Qing, what happened there? Shi Xian scrambled over and dug Gongsun Qing out. Gongsun Qing shook her head, and loose snow fell down from her hair. She was dumbfounded. She had no idea. A hush fell over the crowd. Many were exchanging looks. Didn't His Royal Highness like Gongsun Qing? Chapter 857 Unexpected 857 Unexpected 4. The Crown Prince was in love with her? Said who? However frustrated Mu Yaoyao was before, she was delighted by what just happened. She wanted to jump up and down and cheer. Cough, cough. Gongsun Qing coughed all of a sudden and began to vomit blood. A clot of blood fell out of her mouth. Feng Wu had wanted to steer clear of this Gongsun Qing business, but she was alarmed by the blood clot the latter spat out. She went up to Jun Linyuan and glared at him. Just because you're the Crown Prince doesn't mean you can do whatever you like. Jun Linyuan, do other people's lives mean nothing to you? I'm so disappointed. Feng Wu's eyes spat fire. Jun Linyuan's face turned livid and he clenched his fist. The murderous look in his eyes reminded the others of a lone wolf king. Everyone held their breaths for Feng Wu. That woman was so dead. Gongsun Qing only spilled a few drops of tea, and the Crown Prince was so mad that he kicked her out of the cabin. And what had Feng Wu done? She had scolded His Royal Highness relentlessly. She was so getting killed for this. Feng Sun was on edge and was ready to go to Feng Wu's rescue at any moment. However, to everyone's surprise, glaring was the only thing the Crown Prince did, until Feng Wu stormed off. He didn't explode like everyone expected. Feng Wu went up to Gongsun Qing with a grim look on her face and told Shi Xian, "Move." Feng Wu. Gongsun Qing was agitated as soon as she saw Feng Wu. She had practically dragged Feng Wu here to demonstrate how affectionate the Crown Prince would be with her. As it turned out, Gongsun Qing was utterly humiliated. Go away. I don't want to see you here. Wretch. In her agitation, Gongsun Qing spat out another clot of blood. Shi Xian stared at Feng Wu and yelled, "Go away. We don't want you here." Feng Wu darted a glance at Gongsun Qing. I wouldn't stay here a second longer if it isn't for the fact that you're going to die. She was going to die. Everyone's eyes widened. Many had stayed behind to tease Gongsun Qing, especially those on Mu Yaoyao's side. But now, no one knew what to say. Are you saying I'm dying? Gongsun Qing wouldn't believe it. It was only a common internal injury, wasn't it? Feng Wu smirked. What do you think you just spat out? What? Bits of your internal organs, Feng Wu said gravely. That was why she was so mad. Jun Linyuan had gone too far. He was still that guy from northern border city who didn't hesitate to kill a stranger. To him, other people were no more than ants, Gongsun Qing or the ugly girl alike. My internal organs? My Gongsun Qing blanched. Shi Xian had some medical skills, and she had done particularly well on the medical questions in the written exam. So, she went ghastly pale after examining Gongsun Qing. How can this be? You have multiple injuries to your internal organs, and you have internal bleeding. What are we going to do? You'll die from the blood loss. Sister Qing, it's true. Shi Xian was almost in tears. Everyone else stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Chapter 858 Unexpected. 858 Unexpected. 5. Only then did they remember that Feng Wu had gotten full marks in her written exam. That was to say, she had answered all the medical questions correctly. She had to be excellent in her medical skills. There's only one option for you. Feng Wu stared at Gongsun Qing. Withdraw from the tryout and go find Master Chu. He's your only hope. Withdraw? No. Gongsun Qing, withdraw now. Gongsun Lan's authoritative voice rang out in Gongsun Qing's ears. Gongsun Lan's excitement had been completely replaced with rage. What Jun Linyuan did had utterly humiliated Gongsun Lan. Gongsun Qing had no other choice but to withdraw at the order. Gritting her teeth, she was about to hit the panic button when, all of a sudden, buzz, buzz, their headbands made a strange noise. What was going on? All of a sudden, with a click, all sound was cut off. The bosses were still looking at the screen when the image disappeared. The screen turned completely black. What on earth was going on here? All their faces darkened. An incident on this scale was unprecedented. Gongsun Lan was especially furious. She panicked. What's happening? Why is the image gone? Grand Secretary Fang, can you hear them? Gongsun Lan realized that she had lost contact with Gongsun Qing. Grand Secretary Fang tried and failed as well. Something had gone terribly wrong. Back in the snowfield, that sudden buzzing sound made everyone prick up their ears and look around suspiciously. They were still alarmed when the sound disappeared. Everything was back to normal. Only that. I can't withdraw, sob, it's not working. After all, Gongsun Qing was only a teenage girl, and it was only natural for her to be flustered at the turn of events. Immediately, all eyes were on Feng Wu. Feng Wu sighed in resignation. Take her inside. Luckily, Feng Wu still had a tent left. Otherwise, her patient would freeze to death before she could treat her. Feng Sun tugged at Feng Wu's sleeve as the others carried Gongsun Qing into the tent. Can you save her? Feng Wu said, Don't get your hopes up. The looks the others gave the Crown Prince were even more awe-stricken and frightened. They reflected on themselves. His Royal Highness was indeed as merciless and lethal as he was rumored to be. He was so dangerous to be around. The little kindness the Crown Prince had shown had been mistaken for a change in his disposition. As a result, they had crossed the line. Gongsun Qing thought the same. She had assumed too much because of what His Royal Highness said and had acted inappropriately. She believed that she was the victim of her own deeds. No one thought Jun Linyuan did anything wrong, for they believed that such was how he should behave. The Crown Prince was supposed to be unattainable and out of reach. For a moment it was all hushed in the campsite. But it didn't last long. Someone whispered, What was that buzzing sound? I have no idea. Communication went down all at once. We've lost all means of communication with the outside world now. I'm beginning to freak out a little. Chapter 859 Unexpected. 859 Unexpected. 6. Can the portal be opened again? Are we going to be locked in here forever? The more they discussed, the more flustered they became. Everyone was on edge. We're so lucky that we have His Royal Highness with us. Yes, that's right. With His Royal Highness here, there's no need to be afraid. I'm sure he'll get us out of here. But the question is, will His Royal Highness do that? That silenced everyone. The Crown Prince had no obligation to do that. What was more, being helpful had never been in his nature. At that thought, the candidates began to panic again. Feng Wu had no time for any of that. She was busy treating Gongsun Qing. In his enraged state, Jun Linyuan hadn't even thought about controlling his strength, which was why Gongsun Qing was so severely injured. However, would Jun Linyuan lose control over a few drops of tea? Looking up, Feng Wu saw the sky outside through the tent gap. It was overcast and the wind was howling. It looked ominous. In this sort of situation, it was very likely that Gong Sun Qing would become a burden to everyone else. Now that the way out had been cut off, would Gong Sun Qing die here? Jun Linyuan would be the one to blame if that happened. The only way for Gong Sun Qing to make a quick recovery was to use Feng Wu's blood. More precisely, to use her blood, which contained the internal elixir of that frosty night beast. Feng Wu took out her dagger without hesitation. Thud! Blood gushed out. Ah! Shi Xian cried out in surprise and covered her eyes. She had never expected Feng Wu to slash her wrist open. Xiao Wu! Feng Sun cried out as well. Feng Wu ordered. Pry her mouth open! Yes, of course. Feng Sun and Shi Xian scurried to Gong Sun Qing's side and opened her mouth. Feng Wu sighed inwardly as she fed her own blood to Gong Sun Qing. She would never have to do this if it wasn't for the internal elixir she had swallowed. This was all Jun Linyuan's fault. While Feng Wu's mind was wandering off, Shi Xian observed Feng Wu with conflicted feelings. She recalled all the things Gong Sun Qing had said about Feng Wu this whole time, and how Gong Sun Qing had been showing off in front of the latter. But now, Feng Wu was saving Gong Sun Qing at the cost of her own life. Was Feng Wu really as bad as she was rumored to be? If she was a bad person, then what did a good person look like? Shi Xian was bemused. Is that enough? Is it? Feng Wu had yet to comment on her blood loss before Feng Sun cried out first. His voice was trembling. Feng Wu nodded after examining Gong Sun Qing, then gave Feng Sun instructions. Warm up the blood for her with your spiritual essence, then direct it to her injured internal organs. It should do the trick and repair them. Feng Wu swayed a little after those words. She hadn't fully recovered from her own blood loss earlier, and she had just given away some more. Her face was ghastly pale. Xiao Wu you! Feng Sun doted on Feng Wu. Gong Sun Qing was the last thing on his mind, and all he wanted to do was check up on his dear little sister. However, Feng Wu shook her head. You can't let all my efforts go to waste. Feng Sun had no choice but to do as Feng Wu said. Feng Wu's face had drained of all color and she felt like she was going to black out. She sat down against the wall, crossed her legs, and rested in silence. Chapter 860 Unexpected 860 Unexpected 7. The first thing Xian Yi noticed when he walked into the tent was Feng Wu's bloody wrist. What happened? Xian Yi cried out. Boss Jun would go berserk if he saw this. Xian Yi glared at Feng Sun. What kind of brother are you? Your sister is still bleeding and you're looking after someone else? Like Jun Linyuan, Feng Sun and Xian Yi only cared about those they deemed as one of their own. Shi Xian listened in embarrassment, but didn't dare to utter a sound. Feng Sun snapped, What? Xiao Wu's wound hasn't been treated yet? Oh God, I'm such an idiot! Feng Sun forgot all about Gong Sun Qing and went to look after Feng Wu. Shi Xian was speechless. 4 hours had passed when Feng Wu woke up again. The sun was setting and the light was fading outside. She looked up to see the concerned expression on Feng Sun's face and his frighteningly bright eyes. What time is it now? Feng Wu asked weakly. It's a little after 5. The sun's almost down. How's Gong Sun Qing doing? Feng Sun rolled his eyes at Feng Wu. I'd worry more about myself if I were you. Who the hell is that Gong Sun Qing? She's not worthy of your blood. There's greater merit in saving a life than building a great temple. Feng Wu smiled. As a matter of fact, she would never have used her own blood under normal circumstances, but what was happening was anything but normal. Luckily, blood was a renewable resource. I don't care about a stupid temple. You're the world to me. Remember this. Nothing is more important than your own life. A smile appeared on Feng Wu's pale face. It feels good to have a big brother. This was the first time that Feng Wu had addressed Feng Sun as her brother. Feng Sun almost blushed. Scratching his head, he said, "Well, I'm going to boss June now. I'll come back with something nice for you." Something nice for her? An idea struck Feng Wu. Could June Lin Yuan? In June Lin Yuan's cabin. "Boss June, you have no idea what Xiao Wu has gone through," Feng Sun said with a long face. "She's such a brave girl. She cut her wrist open for another person. The blood gushed out like a fountain. Gosh, I was so frightened." Feng Sun didn't look frightened, but the crown prince blanched a little. It was just that Feng Sun didn't notice. The crown prince had gone stiff. He felt a chill run down his spine as he stared at Feng Sun. Feng Sun said, "I kept wondering, was it worth it for her to hurt herself to save that Gongsun Qing?" The crown prince said, "No! I thought the same." Feng Sun nodded. "My sister is so kind and naive. She's stupid." Jun Lin Yuan's eyes flickered. Feng Sun cleared his throat. "Well, the girl has lost a lot of blood and she's all dizzy. Boss June, do you have any tonics or potions on you that can help her?" Feng Sun smiled obsequiously and put an open palm under Jun Lin Yuan's nose. Jun Lin Yuan glanced at him, then rose to his feet and walked out with an impassive face. Feng Sun followed him out immediately. Jun Lin Yuan headed directly for Feng Wu's tent. On their way there, many rose to their feet to show their reverent respect for their crown prince. "Have you heard? Feng Wu saved Gongsun Qing's life." Chapter 861 Unexpected. 861 Unexpected. 8. And I also heard that Feng Wu cut her wrist open to save Gongsun Qing. Her blood was what stopped Gongsun Qing from dying. Feng Wu did that. I heard it from Shi Xian herself. Shi Xian is Gongsun Qing's best friend, and she was there the whole time. She saw it with her own eyes. It has to be true. So, Feng Wu is actually a kind person. Those on Mu Yaoyao's side couldn't take it anymore and interjected, "No, she's not. Even if what you said is true, she only did it to win popularity." "So, you would cut your own wrist to save other people with your own blood to win popularity?" "Tch, that's because Feng Wu is a physician. She was only doing what she's supposed to do." "That's moral coercion. Since when is it mandatory for all physicians to offer their blood?" Then, Shi Xian stared at Yao Ying, who was standing next to Mu Yaoyao. "Answer me this. Could you do the same if you were her?" Yao Ying stammered, "I." Shi Xian smirked. "Feng Wu didn't even treat her own wound when she told young Lord Feng to save Sister Qing. Answer me. Could you do the same if you were her?" "I." Shi Xian went on, "I've heard a lot about Feng Wu in the past few days. Everyone's been telling me how impossible she is and how infatuated she is with guys. They made her sound like an idiot and a good-for-nothing. But after observing her myself, why do I get the feeling that she's a worthier friend than a lot of other people?" Many pondered Shi Xian's words. Naturally, Jun Lin Yuan heard the conversation as well. Feng Sun was pleased. "They've finally realized how amazing my sister is. I'd say what happened was a blessing in disguise. Xiao Wu turned out to be the winner." "You moron!" To Jun Lin Yuan, no fame was remotely as important as Feng Wu's safety. Back in the tent, Feng Wu looked up to find the stunning face of Jun Lin Yuan, but it didn't bring Feng Wu any joy. Her face only darkened. The atmosphere was rather awkward. Before Feng Sun could smile, Feng Wu rose to her feet and headed for the door. She blurted out when she walked past the crown prince, "Come outside." Her tone was so commanding. Feng Sun jumped. How bold! Had the girl forgotten what happened to Gongsun Qing? Gongsun Qing had assumed too much and thought too highly of herself. Look what happened to her. Feng Wu, on the other hand, had just given the crown prince an order. Even His Majesty wouldn't order Boss Jun around. However, Feng Sun was still venting his sarcasm in his head when his boss Jun followed Feng Sun out. Feng Sun was rendered speechless. He looked at Xian Yi in amazement. Xian Yi shrugged. It was so obvious, and this Feng Sun called himself the smartest man in the imperial capital, next to a high pile of snow. Feng Wu took a deep breath and looked up at Jun Linyuan, who was at least 20 centimeters taller than her. Feng Wu barely reached the crown prince's shoulder. Feng Wu convinced herself that she was still young. She was sure that she could grow up to Jun Linyuan's ear in a few years. But that wasn't the point. Face dark, Feng Wu said in a solemn tone, Jun Linyuan, with everything that has happened, are you still going to deny you're at fault? Jun Linyuan ignored her. He picked up her right hand. Chapter 862, Feng Wu is brilliant. 862 Feng Wu is brilliant. 1. Her thin wrist was wrapped in thick layers of gauze. It looked hideous. The look on Jun Linyuan's face was very dangerous. Jun Linyuan, let go of me. I'm talking to you. Feng Wu struggled. She took a deep breath. I know you're a distinguished figure and that you're expected to look down upon everyone else, but that doesn't give you the right to ignore the lives of others. Fine, you're all-powerful, but that doesn't mean that the weak deserve to die. Gong Sun Qing only spilled a drop of tea on you and you wanted to kill her over such a petty thing. Jun Linyuan, I've never met anyone as cold-blooded as you. After everything Jun Linyuan had put her through over the past few days, Feng Wu had had enough. She blurted everything out without hesitation. Jun Linyuan didn't say anything in response. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and stared at Feng Wu's wounded wrist the whole time. At his side, Feng Wu felt overwhelmed by his intimidating aura. It was hard to breathe. Feng Wu wanted to go on, but Jun Linyuan had picked up her hand and began to examine it. You! Was he even listening? Does it hurt? Before she knew it, Jun Linyuan had removed the gauze and was staring at her mangled wrist. No, not really. This unexpected show of affection gave Feng Wu the creep. But that didn't last. The next second, Jun Linyuan had wrapped his fingers around Feng Wu's wrist. Do you want to die that badly? Feng Wu stammered, I don't. It's just. This is the last time, Jun Linyuan said in a husky voice, and he squeezed out each word through gritted teeth. I'll kill every single person you save this way. That look in his eyes. It was so malicious. He meant it. There was a gust of wind and the hair on Feng Wu's back stood up. Jun Linyuan then released her wrist. Feng Wu almost lost her balance, and had to lean back on the pile of snow as she gasped for air. Jun Linyuan stared at her for another moment with a gaze as sharp as an eagle's. Only then did he turn around and leave. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She only realized a moment later that she had been the one to summon the guy out here. She was supposed to tell him off. How did it turn into a lecture for herself? She was so mad. However, Feng Wu's stomach lurched a little when she recalled the look in Jun Linyuan's eyes. She was seldom afraid of someone, but Jun Linyuan did frighten her. Because the guy was unpredictable, had no respect for life, and was capable of doing anything. Xiao Wu, sob, Xiao Wu. A voice rang out a short distance away. Feng Wu's eyes lit up. It was Chaoga. That was her voice. Feng Wu turned around to see Chaoga running toward her. Her face was smeared with dust. Xiao Wu, Chaoga cried out in excitement, but she was limping. Before she could reach Feng Wu, she lost her balance and rolled down the slope. Exasperated, Feng Wu ran over to Chaoga and helped her to her feet. Xiao Wu, sob. Chaoga was thrilled as she hugged Feng Wu. Where have you been? I was looking for you everywhere. Feng Wu rubbed her head. I've been looking for you too. Why weren't you with them? Them. Mu Yaoyao, Gong Sun Qing, and the others. I don't like any of them. I wanted to find you on my own. Ouch! Chowga cried out in pain all of a sudden. Chapter 863 Feng Wu is brilliant. 863 Feng Wu is brilliant. 2 Feng Wu frowned. Show me. Chowga chuckled. Don't worry. I'm fine. A magical beast just bit me in the leg, and it hurts a little, that's all. What magical beast? A snowy white snake. It was really pretty and I wanted to catch it. But it didn't go as expected, Chowga said with a long face. You silly girl. Feng Wu jabbed Chowga's forehead with a finger and went on examining her. She froze all of a sudden. The look on her face turned grave. Chowga was bewildered. Xiao Wu, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? What happened to your face? And your hand? Chowga reached out to hold Feng Wu's hand, but Feng Wu remained serious. Xiao Wu, what's wrong? Are you very ill? Chowga was flustered. Feng Wu took a deep breath. Chowga, I need to tell you something. Of course. I'll help you no matter what, come hell or high water. Xiao Wu, please don't be afraid. Chowga held Feng Wu's hand and nodded solemnly. Feng Wu would be lying if she said she wasn't moved. Feng Wu wanted to tell Chowga that the snake was extremely poisonous and that she didn't have any antidote on her, not even adequate raw ingredients to make one. But she couldn't bring herself to tell Chowga. Let's get you back first. Feng Wu helped Chowga to her feet. Gosh, this leg is killing me. Chowga drew in her breath and smacked her own thigh. Don't! Feng Wu cried out. The toxin was in a dormant state, but her smack could trigger the flow of her blood and quicken the spread of the toxin. I'll carry you. Feng Wu immediately threw Chowga on her back and headed for the tent. Xiao Wu, put me down. Put me down now. You're dying, you shouldn't be doing this. I should be the one carrying you. Chowga squirmed on Feng Wu's back and yelled. Feng Sun rushed out at the noise. What's going on? What is it? What do you mean Xiao Wu's dying? Feng Sun freaked out. After the blood loss, Feng Wu was in fact too weak to carry Chowga. She put her friend on Feng Sun's back instead. Take her back into the tent. Feng Sun didn't want to, but he obeyed after seeing his sister's pale face. After steadying Chowga on his back, he told Feng Wu, It's so cold out here. Let's go back in. All the other candidates were sitting out in the open as a cold, snowy wind blasted through the valley. Someone had tried to start a fire, but with the howling wind and the heavy snow, the fire was smothered almost as soon as the wood lit up. Their faces had turned blue and everyone was shivering. Looking at their pale faces and purple lips, Feng Wu shook her head in resignation. These people had zero ability to survive in the cold. As she walked past the crowd, she said coldly, Dig a hole in the snow where it's less windy. It'll be warmer inside. She had told them what to do. It was up to them to make the choice. That was as much help as Feng Wu could offer. Feng Wu didn't try to keep her voice down, so a lot of candidates heard her. They whispered among themselves after Feng Wu left. What did Feng Wu say? Chapter 864 Feng Wu is brilliant. 864 Feng Wu is brilliant. 3. She said we should dig a hole in the snow and sleep in it. It'll be warmer that way. Is she trying to kill us? The snow is freezing, and a hole underground will be the same. And she's telling us to sleep in it? We won't live to see another sunrise if we do that. A voice cut them off at that moment. Why do I get the feeling that Feng Wu's instruction makes sense? It was Shi Xian. Ever since Feng Wu saved Gongsun Qing with her own blood, despite how the latter had mistreated her, Shi Xian had changed her opinion of Feng Wu. Many smirked at this. Is that so? Miss Shi, please enlighten us. Shi Xian said, I can't, but I'm willing to try. We'll freeze to death all the same if we just sit here. Shi Xian was the first to dig. Those around her tried to stop her, but she persisted. She was willing to trust Feng Wu, although she also found it impossible that a snow pit could be warmer. Soon, she made a hole big enough for one person. Shi Xian was the first to enter. Wait! Shi Xian's eyes lit up. She had thought that Feng Wu was making fun of them, but as it turned out, Feng Wu was right. It was so much warmer inside. Shi Xian wasn't on her own. After Gongsun Qing was injured, she became the leader of Gongsun Qing's team. She walked out and gave the order to her team of 15. Let's start digging. From 50 m to the east and 30 m to the west under this big rock. We're making a very big snow pit. But the others hesitated. Shi Xian said decisively, I know you all have doubts, but you'll see after you do this. Facts spoke louder than words. With Gongsun Qing gone, the team members followed Shi Xian's instruction. They knelt and began to dig with their weapons. Cold and starved, they began to show signs of hypothermia and grew weaker. Luckily, with their combined efforts, the hole was finished in time. After they climbed in, there was no need for Shi Xian to explain, for everyone beamed at one another. Oh God! It's so warm here. It completely blocks the wind from getting in. I didn't think this would work. Feng Wu was right. Quite a few candidates were still outside and waiting to laugh at the team. However, they were baffled when they saw how cheerful they were. What was going on? Some of them found excuses to enter the little cave. They felt the difference in temperature as soon as they walked in. The looks on their faces changed. That actually worked. A teenager named Fan Yuan was the first to take action. He had always been kind of an outsider, and he was now the first to take action. Without another word, he dashed off and began to dig under that big rock. More people joined in. Everyone was digging like rats, and snow scattered everywhere. Chapter 865 Feng Wu is Brilliant. 865 Feng Wu is brilliant. For Mu Yaoyao and Xian Yuan were dumbfounded. Especially Mu Yaoyao. She grabbed a girl by the arm when the latter ran past her. What's going on there? What are you people doing? Oh my, Princess Mu, please let go of me. I need to hurry up before all the good spots under that rock are taken. That's the least windy place. The girl, who had always respected Mu Yaoyao, shoved the latter to one side and ran off. Mu Yaoyao stumbled and almost fell to the ground. Her face darkened. Could it be that Feng Wu's method actually worked? When Mu Yaoyao finally entered one of the holes, she had to admit that Feng Wu was right. It really was warmer inside than outside. With the holes, they no longer had to sit in the open and shiver in the freezing wind. What frustrated Mu Yaoyao more was the conversation around her. Feng Wu knows so much. I never knew that. That's right. She's really smart. Although, she did get full marks in the written exam. We should have known that. We've said so many bad things about her, but she's still willing to share this piece of information with us. She's not a bad person. So true. Remember how Gongsun Qing targeted her before? But she cut her wrist open to save her. That's proof enough of her character. That doesn't make sense. If Feng Wu is so kind and warm-hearted, why are there so many rumors about her? I bet she offended the wrong people. She's so pretty. It's only normal that some people would be jealous of her. That's the price of being so brilliant. I don't care what other people think, but from now on, I'm going to form my own opinion. Me too. Mu Yaoyao was furious. These people are singing her praises over such a petty favor? Do they even have principles? Mu Yaoyao whined. A petty favor. Those in Xian Yuan Yi's team eyed Mu Yaoyao. To Feng Wu, it was just a kind reminder, but it was a life-saving tip for everyone else. Many had thought highly of Mu Yaoyao before. The girl came with many flashy tags. As the daughter of Lord Mu and a pupil of Firmament Palace, she had Zhuo Qingluan the genius girl as her senior sister and the vice principal of Imperial College as her grandfather. Every candidate had wanted to be part of her circle. However, they had a different opinion of her now. Because of her privileged background, Mu Yaoyao had never thought of any of these people as her equal. She was very angry now, not just because of the change in their views about Feng Wu. What was more, because Shi Xian was the first to react, her team had taken the best spot, whereas Mu Yaoyao and Xian Yuan Yi's teams had to share what was left. Feng Wu had no idea that her little reminder would change these people's minds so drastically. Although, she probably wouldn't care even if she did know. 3 beds lay side by side in the tent. And 3 patients were on one each. They were Yu Minji, Gong Sun Qing, and Duan Chaoga. A fire was burning in the brazier. All 3 patients had fallen into a lethargic sleep. Feng Sun was bemused. Why did Duan Chaoga fall asleep so quickly? Feng Wu said gravely, "She's not sleeping." Chapter 866, Feng Wu is brilliant. 866 Feng Wu is brilliant. 5. What's she doing then? She's unconscious. What? Feng Sun looked shocked. She passed out? That girl is stronger than a calf. How could she pass out? She was bitten by a venomous snake. Once the blade of her dagger was red with heat from the fire, Feng Wu picked the dagger up and pulled up one of Duan Chaoga's legs. Seeing that Feng Sun was still standing there, Feng Wu shook her head. "Brother, go fetch me some rocks." Feng Sun was bewildered. "How big do you need them?" Feng Wu said, "The size of baby fists preferably." "What do you need them for?" "You'll see. Please hurry." Feng Wu cut Feng Sun off before he could ask another question. "Get me those rocks and you'll know what they're for." That was all the explanation she was going to give. Feng Sun promptly left the tent. Feng Wu shook her head with a wry smile. She was about to cut one of Chaoga's trouser legs open, and a guy shouldn't be in the room. There would be rumors if they weren't careful. Feng Wu swept her palm across Chaoga's right calf after Feng Sun left the tent. The cloth turned to ash at her touch. And it revealed the wound on Chaoga's calf. The wound had swollen to the size of a peach, and looked as if it was ready to burst at any moment. The skin around the wound had turned black and gave off a strange energy as well as a horrible smell. Moreover, a black line had emerged on Chaoga's skin and was moving up her calf. Feng Wu examined it and saw that it had reached as far as Chaoga's thigh. It wouldn't be long before it reached her spine. When that happened, Chaoga would spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair, and she would die when it reached her heart. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. It pained her just to think about it. She tried to find a spot to cut into the wound with the red-hot blade, but shook her head after a moment of hesitation. She couldn't find one. It was easy to release the puss, but not as easy to clear all the toxins from Chaoga's system. Feng Wu had a 90% chance of saving Chaoga if they were outside this place and had full access to all the medicine she needed. However, stranded in this abominable place, that chance had fallen to 50%. If anything unexpected happened during the procedure, Chaoga would die. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu put the dagger down. "If only I had some cleansing bee pills on me." Feng Wu rubbed her forehead. Feng Wu had designed the cleansing bee pill herself, and she knew that it would be the perfect antidote for the red-eyed snake. But where was she supposed to find cleansing bee pills now? She didn't have any on her. "You need cleansing bee pills." A voice rang out behind Feng Wu. She turned around to find Xian Yi at the door. Feng Wu asked, "Why are you here?" Xian Yi said, "To bring you the rocks. Can you tell me what they're for now?" "Throw them in the brazier." "That's it. How elaborate did you expect it to be?" Feng Wu found Xian Yi's question amusing. Xian Yi shrugged, then tossed a dozen or so rocks of roughly the same small size into the fire. He then turned in Feng Wu's direction. "You need cleansing bee pills. Do you have any?" Feng Wu frowned. "Actually, I do. But I've only got one bottle. Feng Wu was elated. Give it to me then. Why should I? Crossing his arms, Xian Yi stared at Feng Wu with a half-smile on his face. Feng Wu frowned. Those aren't exactly expensive pills. You can get a bottle for a coin anywhere outside. But you can't do that here, can you? It's a scarce resource. Xian Yi grinned at Feng Wu. Feng Wu's frown grew bigger. Chapter 867 Feng Wu is brilliant. 867 Feng Wu is brilliant. 6. Why did she get the feeling that Xian Yi was behaving differently today? And did he seem more talkative than usual? Feng Wu said, I'll pay you 100-fold. Xian Yi chuckled. Little Feng Wu, do you think I'm in need of small change like that? Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu looked into his eyes. Chaoga is mortally wounded and she needs those cleansing bee pills, which you don't really need at the moment. Please let me use them. I'll owe you a big favor. Xian Yi only smiled, but wouldn't reply. Feng Wu darted a look at the tent entrance. Xian Yi said casually, Feng Sun has gone to His Royal Highness and won't be back for a while. So, you came prepared. Putting the dagger away, Feng Wu stared at Xian Yi. We'll talk outside. Holding his sword between his crossed arms, Xian Yi followed Feng Wu out. Once they walked behind an ice wall, Feng Wu narrowed her eyes in an intimidating manner. Xian II, speak your mind. She stared at him. Feng Wu believed that she knew Xian Yi well enough to know that he wouldn't turn away from the wounded. It was obvious that he had his own reasons. It's nothing, really. I can tell there's something behind it. Just say it. I won't put it that way. You sent Feng Sun off on purpose before coming to me and you're using cleansing bee pills as bait. If that's not deliberate, I don't know what is. Well, Xian Yi rubbed his nose. You've been acting strangely these days. What's going on? Feng Wu narrowed her eyes and looked Xian Yi up and down. No, I haven't. Xian Yi didn't sound so sure. You used to be as prim as an old man. What happened? You're all nosy and meddling. Xian Yi looked embarrassed. He then stared at Feng Wu. Do you want those cleansing bee pills or not? Feng Wu said, Tell me what's on your mind. Xian Yi rubbed his nose again. Feng Wu's intense gaze made him fidget a little. Actually, I was going to save those cleansing bee pills for myself. Feng Wu nodded. All right. But if you really want them, we'll leave it up to God's will. What do you mean by God's will? Easy. Let's make a bet. What bet? The simplest one. How about rock, paper, scissors? I'll give you those pills if you win. But if you lose, I can still give you those pills, but on one condition. Feng Wu smiled a little. There we go. Xian Yi lowered his head and whispered something in Feng Wu's ear. Feng Wu's face darkened immediately. What's that supposed to mean? She flared up. Xian Yi shrugged. You heard me. It's up to you whether to take the offer or not. In Xian Yi's hand was that bottle of cleansing bee pills, which cost next to nothing in the outside world, but was invaluable here. Feng Wu took a deep breath. What will you get out of this? Nothing. Feng Wu was torn inside, for that offer was so. She felt like freaking out just thinking about it. You can always say no. Xian Yi turned to leave. Wait. Feng Wu called after Xian Yi. The teenager smiled a little. Fine. All right. Feng Wu ground her teeth. Her top priority now was Chaoga. If that wound was left untreated and something else unexpected happened, Feng Wu couldn't take that risk. Chapter 868 Feng Wu is brilliant. 868 Feng Wu is brilliant. 7. Xian Yi secretly let out a breath of relief when he heard Feng Wu's reply. He was going so far just to help Boss June. Are you sure about playing rock, paper, scissors? Feng Wu found the idea preposterous. That's right. We'll leave it to fate. Xian II, you really have nothing better to do, don't you? We don't have much to do around here anyway, do we? Feng Wu asked, so, best of 3 wins. Xian Yi said, no, let's get it over with in one go. Get what over with? Hey, what secret are the 2 of you keeping from me? Feng Wu and Xian Yi jumped at the sudden voice. Feng Sun. The teenager eyed the 2 of them suspiciously. Since when are you so close? Feng Wu snapped, Xian II here is so bored that he wants to play rock, paper, scissors. You have time to do that? Feng Sun rolled his eyes. With everything that was going on in the campsite, all the candidates were on edge, not to mention that people were cold and starving. And these 2 were playing rock, paper, scissors here. Good, you can be our judge. Xian Yi then turned to Feng Wu. Let's stand back to back and raise our right hands. We'll move at the same time. Sounds fair? Feng Wu nodded. All right. The guy had the cleansing bee pills, and he was the one to call the shot. 3, 2, 1. They showed their hands at the same time. Without seeing each other's faces, it was really all down to luck. Little Feng Wu, you're so lousy. He's scissors and you're paper. You lost. Feng Sun cried out. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Xian Yi stuffed the bottle of pills into Feng Wu's hand, then whispered in her ear, be sure to come tonight. He left after that. Feng Wu had never looked so conflicted. Feng Sun was bewildered. What did he just tell you? Feng Wu said, nothing. And what's with that look on your face? It's the losing face. Feng Sun said, all right. I can't believe that Xian II. He tricked my sister. He couldn't lose. Feng Wu asked, how so? Don't you know? Know what? Feng Sun sighed. Xian Yi has this ability. He can read other people's minds when he makes contact with them. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. That explained everything. No wonder he wanted to stand with their backs against each other. That Xian Yi. He was going to give her those pills no matter what. Why did he go through that extra step? Why did you tell me? Feng Wu glared at Feng Sun. Feng Sun grinned. You wouldn't have taken the bet if I told you, would you? Plus, you're always so sure of yourself. It feels nice to see you get tricked for a change. You! Speaking of which, what did you bet on? Cleansing bee pills. They're for Chowga. Rubbing his chin, Feng Sun eyed Feng Wu suspiciously. Why do I feel that there's more to it? Are you 2 planning something behind my back? I'm not telling you. Feng Wu turned to leave in frustration. Feng Sun followed her. Hey, little Feng Wu, I'm your brother. Feng Wu glared at him. Is that why you just helped that guy to trick me? Feng Sun rubbed his nose. With cleansing bee pills, Feng Wu could operate on Chowga. Take those rocks out of the fire, wrap them in fish skin and bring them to me, Feng Wu instructed Feng Sun before she cut Chowga's skin open. Chapter 869 Feng Wu is brilliant. 869 Feng Wu is brilliant. 8. Why do we need to wrap the rocks in fish skin? Feng Sun was confused. However, when Feng Wu began to put the wrapped rocks around Chowga, Feng Sun saw the light. Why, Chowga seems to be warming up. Feng Wu nodded. That's right. Heated stones don't cool down that easily and can stay warm for much longer once wrapped in this special fish skin. They'll be able to keep her warm throughout the night. Someone cried out a few steps away. Feng Wu turned around and saw that it was that girl who had been taking care of Gongsun Qing. She remembered she was called Shi Xian. Shi Xian looked excited. Miss Feng, can I use that method as well? Feng Wu asked, what method? Shi Xian said in excitement, to warm up with heated stones. Feng Wu looked very innocent. Of course. Isn't it common sense? Common sense. Shi Xian and Feng Sun exchanged looks. They had never heard about such common sense. Feng Sun was thrilled. The other people won't freeze to death. Little Feng Wu, you're brilliant. Feng Sun ran out of the tent after that. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. What did she do? Why was she so brilliant? After treating Chowga, Feng Wu checked the sky outside and saw that it was about time. She was conflicted. Should she keep her promise with Xian Yi? If she didn't go, she could almost see Xian Yi sneering at her. But if she did go, it would be so humiliating. But one had to always honor a bet, no matter how hard it would be. She had her principles. All right. Feng Wu took a deep breath. So be it. It wasn't like she was going to do it again. Taking off the white apron which she had worn for the operation, she tossed it aside and marched out of the tent. All the candidates were sleeping in their holes and the campsite was empty. Feng Wu's tent was on the north side, while Jun Linyuan's cabin was on the south side. There was some distance between the two. Holding her breath, Feng Wu walked all the way from her tent to the cabin. The entire time, she couldn't see any light in the windows of the cabin. It was deep into the night and it was all hushed. When Feng Wu reached the door to the cabin, the courage she had summoned up began to fade. Xian II was the worst. He had done this on purpose and was waiting to laugh at her. His request was that she had to kiss Jun Linyuan and tell the guy, "I'm in love with you." It was. Feng Wu walked around the cabin in circles and her courage kept fading. Should she talk to Xian II and change the terms? No. Xian II popped up behind her when she wasn't paying attention. Gosh! Feng Wu turned around to find Xian Yi behind her, which made her jump. She glared at him. "You scared the crap out of me." "We're not changing it." Xian II grinned. "Although you can always leave if you're willing to admit that you're a person that won't honor your word." Feng Wu gritted her teeth. "Xian II, you just can't wait to laugh at me, can you?" Holding his sword between his crossed arms, Xian Yi raised an eyebrow. Feng Wu challenged him. "You think I can't do it? Can you?" Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She really wanted to back out. However, she was so irritated by the taunting look in Xian Yi's eyes. "It's just a bet and I'm going to keep my word." Feng Wu snorted and marched toward the cabin. Looking at Feng Wu from behind, Xian Yi narrowed his eyes. Chapter 870, A Kiss. 870 A Kiss. 1. Did Xian Yi have no feelings for Feng Wu at all? That wasn't the case. However, he had to find out how little Feng Wu felt about Jun Linyuan first. Xian Yi believed that she would never agree to such preposterous terms if she didn't have any feelings for Jun Linyuan at all, hence the seemingly pointless bet. He was testing Feng Wu. Maybe the girl hadn't realized how much she actually cared about Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu reached the door to the cabin, and for some reason, she flinched. She looked over her shoulder at Xian Yi. A few steps away, Xian II stood in the snowfield, holding his sword between his crossed arms. He gave her a knowing look and a half-smile. That irritated Feng Wu. So be it. She wouldn't be intimidated. She would get it over with and run away before Jun Linyuan found out. Feng Wu pressed her ear to the door and listened carefully. The breathing sounded long and even. His Royal Highness was really asleep. But that didn't fully convince Feng Wu. Taking out a tube filled with sleeping incense powder, she began to blow it into the cabin. Whoosh! The powder was a special concoction of Feng Wu's, and was supposed to be highly effective. It should take effect in less than 5 minutes. Because Jun Linyuan was the person in question here, Feng Wu waited for a few more minutes. She only pushed the door open 15 minutes later. The cabin had been crudely built and a straw rope had been used to lock the door, which Feng Wu thought would be easy to untie. However, she soon realized that the knot was impossible to untie. She moved to the window instead. Luckily, the window wasn't locked. Feng Wu carefully pried the window open and jumped in as quiet as a cat. She did everything in one smooth motion without any pause in between. The window was left open. for Feng Wu knew she would be leaving soon. Silver moonlight poured into the room like running water and shone on Jun Linyuan's face. The crown prince was lying there with his hands crossed on his abdomen. The clear and bright moonlight gave his deep-set, exquisite features extra charisma, bringing out his natural charm. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu walked gingerly to the bed and sat down on the edge. Feng Wu waved a finger in front of his face. Jun Linyuan? Jun Linyuan? She had to make sure he was really asleep. He gave no reply. Feng Wu was elated. However, she still wasn't fully convinced. Could a formidable man like Jun Linyuan be drugged that easily? She drew a dagger out of her sleeve for another test. The blade glinted coldly in the moonlight. She then swept the blade down at Jun Linyuan's forehead. Jun Linyuan's eyes remained closed and he didn't move a muscle. He would have dodged if he was pretending to be asleep. However, he didn't even flinch when the tip of the blade was 1 centimeter away from him. That was to say, Jun Linyuan was really drugged. Oh God, this was a 1 in a million chance. Putting the dagger away, Feng Wu put a hand on either side of Jun Linyuan's head and lowered her head. Staring at Jun Linyuan's face, she quickly said the words that Xian Yi had told her to say. Although there was a little twist. Feng Wu said it in French, which was unknown in this world. Je t'aime. Feng Wu couldn't even bring herself to look at Jun Linyuan's face after saying those words, fearing that the guy might wake up. It would be so embarrassing. She then lowered her head to kiss him. But she was too nervous and lost her balance. The next second, she fell on top of Jun Linyuan. Chapter 871, A Kiss. 871 A Kiss. 2. She fell on top of him and their lips touched. Feng Wu felt like screaming. She was supposed to kiss him without letting him know, not smash into him to wake him up. Feng Wu was still feeling frustrated when she sensed an intense gaze. She raised her head and looked into a pair of bright eyes. Feng Wu. Their eyes met. Blood rushed into Feng Wu's head, and she felt as if she had just been struck by lightning. Her head went completely blank. For a moment, Feng Wu didn't know where she was or what she was doing. Their lips had touched and she had looked into his eyes. Ah! Feng Wu finally came back to herself. Shoving Jun Linyuan away, she jumped out of the window and disappeared into the night. She was soon nowhere to be seen. Jun Linyuan didn't know what to say. In the dark, he touched his thin lips and smiled. Little Feng Wu, I finally know what you want. Feng Wu ran all the way back to her tent and closed the door loudly behind her as she gasped for breath. She couldn't get the image out of her head. It was so embarrassing. How could she wake Jun Linyuan up? That ruined all her plans. Would he begin to assume things? Of course he would. She had drugged him in the middle of the night before climbing into his room and kissing him. Feng Wu smacked her own head in frustration. Feng Wu, you're the dumbest person in the world. Feng Wu smacked herself again. Why are you doing that to yourself? Are you crazy or something? Yuminji had woken up and was grinning at Feng Wu. His amorous eyes twinkled. He noticed that Feng Wu was blushing, and the look on her face reminded him of a girl in love. She almost looked secretly joyful. Yuminji narrowed his eyes. Did you go see Jun Linyuan? The scared son was displeased. No. Feng Wu denied outright. Really? Yuminji wasn't convinced. Yes, really. Feng Wu threw a dirty look at him and said in an irritated voice. She was angry from her embarrassment. Yuminji looked aggrieved as he mumbled, Fine, you didn't. There's no need to shout at me. Feng Wu said, Sorry about that. Her apology cheered Yuminji up right away and he beamed at her. Little Feng Wu, come here. What? Despite her impatience, Feng Wu still went up to him. Taking Feng Wu's hand, Yuminji looked up at her. You made my life miserable back in Frozen Forest. I told you already, I'm not her. Shall I invite Feng Sun and the other guys over to help me with that? You Minji, how dare you? Feng Wu smacked the guy on the head. Ouch! Yu Minji puffed out his cheeks and cried out in pain. He looked at Feng Wu with teary eyes. Are you trying to kill your future husband? Feng Wu stomped on his feet. Say that again and you're dead. Fine, fine. I won't, Yu Minji pouted. Feng Wu had tricked him over and over again in Frozen Forest. He had been set up and poisoned, not to mention that she had stolen the treasure from him. But now she was threatening him. Any other woman would have been killed by now. Chapter 872, A Kiss. 872 A Kiss. 3. But why did he seem to enjoy it when little Feng Wu yelled at him? Yu Minji rubbed his chin. Why are you grinning? Feng Wu was bewildered and felt Yu Minji's forehead for his temperature. The guy was rubbing his chin and grinning. Was he delirious? He didn't have a temperature. Before Feng Wu knew it, a big hand was on top of hers and Yu Minji was looking up at her with his brooding eyes. The air felt warm all of a sudden. Thump! Feng Wu stomped on Yu Minji's foot. Ouch! That hurt. Yu Minji glared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu said grumpily, Have you recovered? I think so. Completely. I don't think so. Then lie down already. All right. After forcing Yu Minji to go to bed, Feng Wu sat down against the wall and closed her eyes. The night ended and the eastern sky began to brighten up. The candidates started to wake up one after another. Meanwhile, in Imperial College, many were worried sick. For they had lost contact with the candidates inside. Not only wasn't there a video feed on the screen, even the ranking screen had gone dark. Only 1/10 of all candidates had passed the written exam, and everyone who was still taking part in the physical tryout was from privileged backgrounds. Hence, all their families were concerned about the situation. Parents had gathered outside the college and were asking questions in great agitation. But no one was able to tell them anything. For even the heads of Imperial College didn't know what was going on in the snowfield. The news got to the Feng clan. Feng Lu was over the moon when she heard it. What? Say that again. Feng Lu stared at Kaiwe, her chambermaid. What did you say? Miss Lu, all candidates are stuck in Proud Snowfield and have lost contact with people on the outside. No one knows what happened to them. Lady Wang patted her chest. Xiao Lu, it's so lucky that you didn't get in, or I would be so worried now. All of them are stuck there and they could be all dead by now, right? Feng Lu said. Such as Feng Wu, Chaoga, and Mu Yaoyao. That's right, said Kaiwe. Many families have gathered outside Imperial College and are asking for an explanation. Feng Lu was elated. Has Feng Wu's family heard about this? We've only just heard the news ourselves. That family has kept pretty much to themselves. I don't think they've been told yet. Feng Lu and Lady Wang exchanged looks. They hadn't? Good. Let's go. Lady Wang and Feng Lu headed for Fallen Star Yard. Feng Wu feared that her beautiful mother would be harassed after she and Chaoga left for the exam, so she had made arrangements beforehand. Uncle Chiu was to keep the gate shut and try to stay inside for as long as possible. Knock, knock, knock. Granny Gui banged on the door. But no one answered. Keep knocking. Lady Wang smirked. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. The door to the yard had been fortified, but the banging still almost shattered it. Who is it? Granny Zhao called out from inside, sounding displeased. Granny Zhao, it's me. We've got news about Miss Wu. Granny Gui and Lady Wang exchanged looks. Granny Zhao opened the door immediately at the mention of Feng Wu. She saw a large group of people outside, led by none other than Lady Wang herself. Chapter 873, A Kiss. 873 A Kiss. 4. Granny Zhao asked in a hurry, What happened to Miss Wu? Lady Wang cast a stern look at her. You're just a maid. Show me to your lady now. Lady Wang, her ladyship isn't feeling well. Granny Zhao tried to stop Lady Wang from coming in. However, Lady Wang glared at her. Xiao Wu is dying and all she thinks about is herself? What kind of mother is she? Granny Zhao and Uncle Chiu exchanged looks of astonishment. Miss Wu is dying? How's that possible? Qiuling was bewildered. Qiuling was helping Lady Xuanji to her feet, and naturally, the lady heard the news as well. What? Xiao Wu is… Lady Xuanji turned ghastly pale. Tears welled up in her eyes and her knees buckled. What happened to Xiao Wu? Seeing how shocked Lady Xuanji was, Lady Wang felt she had vented her hatred. She smirked. Something disastrous has happened and they've lost contact with the candidates inside. I heard that the boss of all magical beasts, the Frosty Night Beast, has woken up. The other candidates at least have the ability to protect themselves, but your Feng Wu is simply too weak. Or shall we say, she's useless. Some candidates who have withdrawn from the exam said that your Xiao Wu is dead. My lady! My lady! Qiuling panicked when Lady Xuanji fainted in her arms. All hell broke loose in the courtyard. Lady Wang and Feng Lu promptly left the scene. The mother and daughter exchanged gloating smiles after they left the courtyard. Xiao Wu, my Xiao Wu, Lady Xuanji wept. My lady, please calm down. Everyone thinks Miss Wu has no cultivation ability at all, but Miss Wu is very capable. I'm sure she's fine. Qiuling knew that something had gone wrong, but it wasn't necessarily as serious as Lady Wang had described. She said to the others, My lady, please don't worry. I'll go to Northern Feng Mansion to ask Lady Northern Feng about it. I'm sure she can tell us something. Qiuling then went to talk to Lady Northern Feng. The guards recognized her from before and showed her in right away. Qiuling told Lady Northern Feng what happened. Lady Wang frowned. Lady Wang told you that? Qiuling nodded with a serious look on her face. Nonsense. Lady Northern Feng smacked her hand on the table. Something happened, which is why His Majesty sent His Royal Highness and Ah Sun in to protect the candidate. If something that big happened, the Crown Prince would be in danger as well. Who told them that someone died? They're spreading rumors. So is Miss Wu all right? Lady Xuanji passed out when she heard the news, and she's still pale. Qiuling was anxious. Lady Northern Feng waved her hand. I'm coming with you. She arrived at Fallen Star Yard to find Lady Wang sitting next to Lady Xuanji's bed, while holding the latter's hand. There was a feigned sad look on Lady Wang's face. Sister-in-law, I've sent people out to ask around. Xiao Wu is really gone. I'm here to offer my condolences. Please take care of yourself. Lady Xuanji flared up and shoved Lady Wang away. You're a bad person. Go away. I'm not talking to you. Lady Wang looked pleased, but before she could go on. Lady Wang, I see you have nothing better to do these days. Are you having fun upsetting Lady Xuanji? Lady Northern Feng snorted. Chapter 874, A Kiss. 874 A Kiss. 5. Lady Wang turned around to see Lady Northern Feng behind her. She didn't like the sight of Lady Northern Feng at all, but had to suppress that feeling. Not only that, she even had to put on a friendly smile. Lady Northern Feng. Lady Northern Feng smirked. Did you just say that my Xiao Wu is dead? My Xiao Wu? That was so affectionate. Despite her bitterness, Lady Wang had to squeeze out a smile. Your ladyship, I was only just told. From where and by whom? What were their words, exactly? I need names. Lady Northern Feng sneered. Imperial College hasn't given out any information so far. I'd like to see who's been spreading rumors and causing panic among the common folk. His Majesty and Her Majesty the Empress Dowager will hear about this. His Majesty and Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. Lady Wang panicked. No one had told her about Feng Wu's death. She had made it all up to shake Lady Xuanji. Your ladyship. Names. Now. Lady Northern Feng snapped. Instantly, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Lady Wang shuddered inwardly. Granny Tao, Lady Northern Feng's maid, fetched a writing brush and ink, and set them in front of Lady Wang. She then unscrolled some paper, dipped the writing brush in the ink, then handed it to Lady Wang. There you go. Lady Wang didn't know what to do. Anything she wrote down now would become evidence. If it really was taken to His Majesty, she would be charged for spreading rumors, and that was punishable by death. Lady Northern Feng was known for her dauntless behavior. That woman was capable of anything. The more Lady Wang thought about it, the more scared she got. Sweat trickled down her forehead. She could only plead with Lady Northern Feng. Your ladyship, I heard it from one of the maids. Which maid? Her name is Kaiwe. Where is Kaiwe? Kaiwe was shivering from head to toe already. She collapsed to the ground at Lady Northern Feng's voice. Granny Tao, take the girl next door and record down everything she says. Lady Northern Feng smirked. Granny Tao took Kaiwe away as if she was picking up a chicken. After that, Lady Northern Feng darted a glance at Lady Wang. Now, Lady Wang, tell me exactly what rumor Kaiwe told you. This had turned into an interrogation. Lady Wang flared up. Lady Northern Feng, are you questioning me now? My husband may not be as influential as yours, but he's at least the minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel. Please show me some respect. Lady Northern Feng scoffed at her words. Your husband's position is the only reason that you're being questioned here, instead of at the Ministry of Punishments. You! Lady Wang's heart sank. It was just a little gossip. Could it be that serious? You have 10 seconds. After that, I'll leave things in the hands of the Ministry of Punishments. Lady Northern Feng snorted. His Majesty wants the name of the person that started the rumors. Lady Wang, was it you? Lady Wang blanched. Right at that moment. Smack! Ah! Smack! Ah! She heard the sound of whipping and wailing next door. Needless to say, Granny Tao was interrogating Kaiwe. Soon, the granny came back with a piece of paper. Lady Northern Feng took a look and glanced at Lady Wang with a half-smile. Chapter 875, A Kiss. 875 A Kiss. 6. Lady Wang didn't dare hold back any information anymore. She said in a hurry, It was Kaiwe. She told me that Xiao Wu was dead. But this piece of paper tells me otherwise. Lady Northern Feng smiled. I wonder which of you is lying. Guards. Lady Wang was utterly flustered. With a wave of her hand, Lady Northern Feng said, Take these 2 people away. Lady Northern Feng, you can't do this to me. I'm a 4th-ranked lady. You're suspected of spreading rumors and disturbing public order. I'll talk to Minister Feng himself if he has questions. Lock Lady Wang up in the prison at the Ministry of Punishments. Lady Wang was bewildered. This wasn't happening. She couldn't believe it. She was going to be locked up in the Ministry of Punishments because she made up a story about Feng Wu's death? She was the wife of the minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel, for Christ's sake. However, no matter how loudly Lady Wang cried and how aggrieved she felt, she couldn't change Lady Northern Feng's mind. No one ever could. Seeing her mother being taken away, Feng Lu slipped away without a word. Lady Northern Feng shook her head as the girl ran away. Luckily, Ning Chensi had discovered the truth in time. The entire Ning family would have been ruined if he married this girl. With Lady Wang's people taken away or scattering, Fallen Star Yard quieted down again. It was only now that the people of Fallen Star Yard could express their gratitude toward Lady Northern Feng. Lady Xuanji had the mind of a child, so Granny Zhao thanked Lady Northern Feng on her behalf. Your ladyship, it's all thanks to you that. It's the least I could do. Lady Northern Feng casually waved her off. Xiao Wu is my goddaughter and you're all family. Plus, if Xiao Wu finds out that I didn't help you when she was away, she'll hate me for it. Qiuling asked, Miss Wu is coming back, isn't she? We'll see her again, right? Lady Northern Feng said confidently, I wouldn't be so sure if His Majesty sent someone else in, but His Royal Highness is leading the rescue team himself. Even if you don't trust Xiao Wu, you should have faith in him. But Qiuling was still worried. So what if His Royal Highness was in there with them? He and her mistress didn't exactly see eye to eye. Would he really care about Miss Wu's well-being? Qiuling wasn't convinced. And my brat is with them, too. Lady Northern Feng knew how much Feng Sun cared about his little sister. Xiao Wu would always be his top priority. The entire imperial capital was in a panic. And all the pressure was on Grand Secretary Feng. In the imperial palace. Cough, cough. Grand Secretary Feng broke out in a fit of coughing as he reported to the emperor. Feng, do slow down. Emperor Wu told the chief steward to fetch a chair for Grand Secretary Feng. I know that all eyes are on you at the moment. It's very unfortunate for you, having to handle a situation like this right after starting in your new position. But don't worry. The Crown Prince is in there with them. He'll figure everything out. Emperor Wu chuckled. Grand Secretary Feng sighed. I wouldn't be so worried if everything is as reported, but that sound before the communication was cut off came from something more powerful than a king of the magical beasts. I'm afraid that the Frosty Night beast might have mutated. Are you sure? Emperor Wu frowned. Chapter 876, A Kiss. 876 A Kiss. 7. Grand Secretary Feng nodded solemnly. Emperor Wu had been very confident about his decision before, but not anymore. He was agitated. Crossing his hands behind his back, he walked back and forth in the study. Are you sure about the mutation? Emperor Wu frowned at Grand Secretary Feng. Grand Secretary Feng nodded. I think it's highly likely. That's going to be problematic, said Emperor Wu. The Crown Prince specializes in the element of fire, whereas the Frosty Night beast is a beast of ice. The two elements are in a balanced relationship. Now that the beast has mutated, my son is going to be in trouble. What? What do you mean he's in trouble? The Empress Dowager was taking a walk in the garden and happened to walk past the Emperor's study. She then decided to pop in to see if the father and son had been fighting again. Thus, she heard mention of her baby June at the door, and made her way into the study. Emperor Wu buried his face in his hands. Had it been anyone else, the person would have been kicked out. However, it was his mother. Mother. Emperor Wu was going to find an excuse, but the Empress Dowager cut him off. No excuses. I want the truth. She had obviously overheard the conversation. There was no point trying to hide it from her anymore. Hence, Emperor Wu told her everything. The Empress Dowager almost choked on her own breath. Grabbing Emperor Wu, she ranted, What's wrong with you? Why did you send baby June on such a dangerous mission? Do you hate your son? I knew it. You hate baby June. Emperor Wu was aggrieved. June Linyuan wanted to go himself and I couldn't stop him. Why did he do that? Well, next to the Empress Dowager was none other than Empress Dugu. While the old lady was sick, Empress Dugu had made use of the opportunity and kept her company. The two were getting along much better now. And it would be against Empress Dugu's nature to let such an opportunity go to waste. Mother, do you think that Miss Feng Wu could be the reason? What? The Empress Dowager stared at her daughter-in-law. Empress Dugu smiled. The rumor on the street is that His Royal Highness is in love with Miss Feng Wu. So, is it possible that His Royal Highness entered the region because of that? Where did that rumor come from? The Empress Dowager flared up. I only heard it in passing. I'm sure it's just speculation. Find the person who started it. The Empress Dowager's face was livid. Grand Secretary Feng's heart sank when he heard the anger in the old lady's voice. It seemed that the Empress Dowager still didn't like Xiao Wu, even after the girl saved her life. Why, isn't it Grand Secretary Feng? Empress Dugu turned to Grand Secretary Feng. I was told that you're Feng Wu's next-door neighbor. That's right. What do you think of Miss Feng, then? Empress Dugu was well connected. She had learned about the help Grand Secretary Feng gave Feng Wu during the written exam. Therefore, she had said that to make the Empress Dowager aware of the relationship between Grand Secretary Feng and Feng Wu, so that the old lady would find Grand Secretary Feng untrustworthy. That was her plan. As soon as Empress Dugu said that, the Empress Dowager stared at Grand Secretary Feng. Feng, you've known Feng Wu for very long, then? Grand Secretary Feng sighed inwardly, but only cupped his hands at the Empress Dowager. Your Majesty, Xiao Wu is a modest and kind girl. Her cultivation doesn't stand out, but her formation and medical skills. Chapter 877, A Kiss. 877 A Kiss. 8. Empress Dugu went on, wait. Grand Secretary Feng, did you just call Miss Feng Wu modest and kind? But from what I heard, she was a bully during the physical tryout and ruined someone's face. She ruined someone's face? The Empress Dowager was shocked. That's right, said Empress Dugu. And I heard that there was more than one person. The victims were all pretty girls who were quite capable in their cultivation skills. Sigh. Is Feng Wu jealous of others after losing her own ability? Irked, Grand Secretary Feng became much more serious when he said, one shouldn't take rumors seriously. Empress Dugu was going to retort when Grand Secretary Feng casually said, moreover, it's common knowledge that Feng Wu has no cultivation ability. How can she bully other candidates, let alone ruin their faces? Well, she could have an accomplice. Who knows? Empress Dugu chuckled. Emperor Wu interjected, that's enough. What you're arguing about is highly inappropriate. Just then, footsteps came from outside. Your Majesty, the head of the Zhou clan begs for an audience. The head of the Zhou clan was none other than Zhou Qingluan's father. What was he doing here? Grand Secretary Feng suddenly had a bad feeling about this. At the same time, the sky had cleared in proud snowfield and the snow had stopped, but it was much colder. All the candidates drew in their breaths after they walked out of their little caves. It's freezing. Why is it much colder, even after the sun is out? Oh God, we'd have frozen to death if we stayed outside last night. We're so fortunate to have Feng Wu. She told us to hide in the holes we dug. Otherwise, all of us would be dead by now. Miss Feng Wu taught us more than that. She also told us to keep warm with heated stones. Mu Yaoyao woke up to such a conversation, and her face darkened right away. She had been the center of all the attention before, but now, the others weren't exactly impolite to her, but they obviously had more respect for Feng Wu now, and Mu Yaoyao found that unacceptable. By the way, where's Miss Feng? I'd like to thank her in person. Look, Miss Feng has come out. However, a gust of wind swept across the campsite when they were going to talk to Feng Wu. It was freezing. They turned to see the crown prince behind them. Wrapped in a thick cape, the teenager looked majestic and authoritative. He gave off an intimidating air. Right now, he was headed for Feng Wu's tent, eyes fixed in front of him. No. Everyone's stomachs lurched. The crown prince looked like he was going to arrest someone. Who else could it be? Was Feng Wu going to be in trouble? Before, everyone would have taken pleasure in Feng Wu's predicament. But now, they weren't heartless people. Feng Wu had saved Gongsun Qing with her own blood, and taught them the trick with the snow caves and heated stones. They couldn't even bring themselves to say anything bad about Feng Wu, let alone stand around when the girl was about to get into trouble. What should we do now? Many candidates were flustered. Meanwhile, Xian Yi was saying a silent prayer next to Jun Linyuan. After everything he had done to prepare the young couple, all they needed was a little push in the back. Your Royal Highness, please don't blow this again. Of course, Xian Yi didn't let any of this show on his face. Holding his sword inside his crossed arms, he looked as solemn as a young lord should. The Crown Prince kept his gaze on Feng Wu the entire time. Chapter 878 His Royal Highness Likes You. 1. 878 His Royal Highness Likes You. 1. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. By the looks of His Royal Highness's demeanor, was he going to give Feng Wu a hard time again? Needless to say, Mu Yaoyao was grinning. However, most of the others were grateful for Feng Wu's help and were concerned. Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu. His eyes flickered, his face was impassive, and he pursed his lips. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Shit! Jun Linyuan was here to ask her about what happened last night. Looking around, Feng Wu saw that all eyes were on them. If this got out, she would be facing the greatest humiliation of her life. Vexed, Feng Wu threw a dirty look at Xian Yi. However, Xian Yi seemed to be ignoring her in favor of looking at Jun Linyuan the whole time. A million ideas flashed across Feng Wu's mind. Luckily, she was level-headed enough to keep her face straight. Feng Wu, last night. The look on Feng Wu's face changed as soon as Jun Linyuan began to speak. What happened last night? I was treating my patients the whole time and never set foot outside the tent. Feng Wu stoutly denied. But I saw you last night. You were only dreaming. Feng Wu almost panicked. The gossip of her climbing into Jun Linyuan's bed had already gone viral. If the guy began to talk about her coming to him last night in front of everyone, and told the others what happened after she got there, she would be ruined. Feng Wu was shivering inwardly. Jun Linyuan sneered at Feng Wu. She couldn't read the emotion in his eyes. Still staring at Feng Wu, Jun Linyuan said, "Walk with me." He promptly turned to leave after that. And he walked fast. Feng Wu secretly let out a breath of relief. She racked her brain for a way out as she followed Jun Linyuan. "Feng Wu, good luck!" someone called out from the crowd. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder and saw that it was Shi Xian. Several others followed suit and cheered for her with waving fists. "Feng Wu, we believe you. Don't worry, Feng Wu. We got your back." Feng Wu. Feng Wu was bewildered. This wasn't right. Didn't these people hate her? She had lost count of all the things they had been saying about her. Their biggest wish was probably for her to disappear forever. But how come their attitudes had now changed? That was so strange. However, Feng Wu didn't have time to care about what other people thought of her now. Her top priority was to deal with the intimidating crown prince in front of her. Feng Wu had to admit that if she were the one that got drugged in the middle of the night and kissed against her will, she'd be pissed too. No, she would be furious. Feng Wu cringed a little. She was in a lot of trouble. Thump! Feng Wu was too lost in her thoughts to watch where she was going. Jun Linyuan just happened to halt at that moment and turned around. Hence, Feng Wu bumped into Jun Linyuan's chest. She might as well be throwing herself at him. Feng Wu was so embarrassed when she realized that. She would never be able to explain herself. Rubbing her nose, Feng Wu gave Jun Linyuan an accusing look. The pain brought tears to her eyes and she wrinkled her nose. His chest was so hard. She thought she had broken her nose or something. Jun Linyuan's eyes were frighteningly bright as he stared at Feng Wu. They were a little red from lack of sleep. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.